This is Ocean Robbins, and I am so excited that in just about 6 minutes we're going to begin day 7 of the Food Revolution Summit. We will be starting with Dr. David Katz at 8 a.m. Pacific Time, 11 Eastern, 3 p.m. GMT. An hour after that, we'll have an interview with Kathy Freston, and at the top of the hour after that, we'll be on the line with Dr. Susan Peirce Thompson. The subject for today's interviews is healthy habits. Learn to love foods that love you back. We'll be starting off our interview with Yale Griffin Prevention Research Center founding director, Dr. David Katz, in about 5.5 minutes now. If you've ever felt that you were pulled to foods that weren't in your best interests, today you're going to understand why. If you've ever felt that the odds were stacked against us, that it takes an uphill battle in order to do what's right for your body, today you're going to understand why, and more importantly, you're going to understand how to break free, how you can have food freedom, how you can love foods that love you back. We heard from Judy Gogolin, who said, "All of the speakers are superb as always. I have never missed a Food Revolution Summit, and there is always new and crucial information. John is the best interviewer ever, so humble and so wise. He is complimented so beautifully by Ocean in his also gentle and compassionate, highly intelligent and informed ways." I wish Judy had kept going, but that's where she ended that sentence. Thank you, Judy. She went on to say, "Although I could say so much and give thanks for each speaker and am grateful, I feel moved to write specifically about Dr. Vandana Shiva. She is so devoted to helping humans and animals, so brilliant, so motivated to speak with truth and not accept excuses. Her energy seems to be unending. What a gift she is to our world. Thank you, Dr. Shiva, and each amazing speaker, and most of all, John and Ocean Robbins, and the behind-the-scenes, hard-working Food Revolution people who bestow this gift upon us year after year. God bless you always." Thank you so much, Judy. And actually, I do want to take a moment to acknowledge all of the people. There are more than 30 staff involved in pulling this event together and making it happen. And all of our partners who have helped spread the word. Many people listening probably heard about this from somebody else who told you about the Food Revolution Summit and invited you to join in. So thank you to all of these folks. And especially, I want to acknowledge 2 very special women in my life. My dad and I are out in front getting a lot of attention, but we are side by side and profoundly grateful for my mom, my dad's partner of 51 years, Deo Robbins, and my beloved wife, partner of 24 years, Phoenix Robbins, who are feeding each of us so we can be doing all this and supporting us and cheering us on and loving us and putting up with us being very away a lot as we're doing this, because it takes a lot to put this together. So I'm just so grateful for the incredible partnership and love and wisdom that I receive from all of the women in my life, and I especially want to shout out to my wife and my beloved mom. If you've just joined us, we are going to be starting today's broadcast with an interview with Dr. David Katz in about 3 minutes. As we go through this day, I want to invite you to regularly refresh the comments and post your thoughts, your reactions, your feelings, insights that are landing for you or inspiring you that you want to share with others. Today's topic is healthy habits. Learn to love foods that love you back. We heard from Linda Winters, who said we own an organic farm, black beans, navy beans, wheat, and corn. And I am so excited that after 8 years of transitioning various fields, we will be 100% organic this fall. We went from a 1/2 acre test plot with navy beans 8 years ago to 204 acres as of this year. I have been listening to your Food Revolution Summit all week, and I am absolutely thrilled that you are highlighting organic farming in yesterday's segment. Let me explain that when I first moved out to my husband's farm, I was blown away by all of the neighbors that had cancer. My neighbor across the road in her late 50s passed away from pancreatic cancer. The neighbor around the corner had breast cancer. My father-in-law passed away from prostate cancer. My mother-in-law is a colon cancer survivor. My husband transitioned out of welding, and I transitioned out of teaching to commit to organic farming on both of our farm properties. I watched my husband and stepson passionately work from dawn till dusk, planting cover crops of rye, oats, and/or clover to nourish the soil, planting the seeds, foliar spraying with organic teas. Since we have begun farming organically, we now see worms again in the soil. The frogs are croaking again, and we have been blessed with honey from our bees. In order to be certified organic, the paperwork is phenomenal, and at times I feel overwhelmed with the amount of time it takes to document every detail of our farm days. However, when I think about traceability and accountability, we are committed and passionate about what we are doing. I am just so moved by what you are doing. So grateful. Thank you. On a personal note, I began eating a whole foods plant-based diet in 2017. I am 61 years old and 5 feet tall. This past year, I lost 20 pounds, lost 38 points in my cholesterol, and went from being pre-diabetic to having a normal A1C. My migraines immediately cut in half when I gave up dairy and processed white sugar. I can't thank you enough for this summit. All life is changing. There is hope. I just want to breathe that in, Linda. That's a lot that you shared with us. I want to share my sorrow that so many people in your family have lost their lives to cancer and so many of your neighbors. And I want to share my incredible gratitude to all you and all of the farmers and all of the farming families that are growing the food we eat with love, with care, with compassion, with passion. We are so grateful for your labor and for your commitment. Thank you so much. In a few moments, you will hear us now on the line with Dr. David Katz asking, have your taste buds been hijacked? An hour after that, you'll hear us on the line with Kathy Freston on the truth about protein. An hour after that with Dr. Susan Peirce Thompson. Each interview will be expertly guided by my dad and colleague, John Robbins. Now let me ask you, do you ever have cravings for foods that aren't truly in your best interests? Do you want to love foods that love you back? Because if you do, you are in the right place. We'll begin with Dr. David Katz in a moment. Welcome to the Food Revolution Summit, where we explore how you can heal your body and your world with food. This is Ocean Robbins, and I am joined by my dad, John Robbins, in welcoming our guest, Dr. David Katz. Dr. Katz is a nutritionist, an author, and a globally recognized authority on lifestyle medicine. He's the founding director of the Yale Griffin Prevention Research Center and past president of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. Dr. Katz founded True Health Initiative, a coalition of hundreds of world-renowned physicians, scientists, and nutrition experts who are committed to establishing and communicating a growing scientific consensus on the optimal diet for human beings. Dr. Katz is the recipient of 3 honorary degrees, and in 2017, he was named by Diet Spotlight as one of the world's top nutrition experts. So now, David, we're so glad to have this time with you. And for the interview, I'm going to hand it over to my dad and colleague, John Robbins.
Well, thank you, Ocean. And thank you, David, for being with us once again this year.
Great to be with you, John. And Ocean, thank you. What a lovely introduction. Much appreciated.
Well, we appreciate you and your work and your message and how you convey it so much. And I want to begin actually by asking you something I haven't before, which is, what do you love about the work you do? I mean, is there something about it that brings you excitement and gratitude?
I think, John, it's actually the same thing that brings me a lot of frustration, and that is the potential to make a positive difference in arguably the currencies that really matter most, years in lives, life in years. And I say it's the source of both gratification and frustration because, we're working against such powerful forces in our culture, in the modern world, to try and help people eat well and adopt a health-promoting lifestyle. And then the other thing that matters enormously to me, as I know it does to you and to Ocean, is the impact on the planet. The beauty of this world and biodiversity and the wild places and the same actions in the area of diet and lifestyle that are best for the human condition offer the greatest promise for everything that matters about the planet, the care and treatment of animals, the wild places, the sustainability of our resources. So, the idea that we can contribute something meaningful to all of that, I mean, that's a good reason to get up in the morning, right? So it's incredibly rewarding and stimulating and exciting. On the other hand, every day we wake up and confront the opposing forces that profit from the status quo and make it hard to advance this mission. And those are the sources of frustration in my life.
When you think about the forces we're up against, I saw a child wearing a T-shirt that said, "If you love me, don't feed me junk food." And I liked that. I liked seeing that on that child. And it got me thinking that as a culture, we don't allow tobacco advertising aimed at children. But we do still allow junk food companies to advertise some of their worst products to kids.
I have long thought about exactly. I like that T-shirt too, by the way, and that's I think, John, it's kind of what we need, right? It's just sort of a reorientation because it's still normal and acceptable, and the people around you are not going to wince or roll their eyes if you're giving cheese doodles to a 4-year-old. It's what happens in our culture. But heaven help you if you give a lit cigarette to a 4-year-old, right? So eventually, I think we could come around to recognize that junk cannot be food, and food should not be junk, and that food is the construction material for the growing body of a child, and it's something a lot like a crime to grow the body of a child out of junk. So I'm hoping we'll get there, but yeah, we've got a ways to go.
You've often pointed out that when it comes to health news, which inform people's understanding of diet and health, the media tends to fixate on the latest controversy or the newest diet craze. And the result is we get a lot of provocative headlines and we get intriguing sound bites, but what we don't get very often is solid, credible health information. David, does this bias that the media has toward whatever will generate the most attention and garner the most clicks have something to do with why so many people feel confused and even baffled today about what they should eat?
No question about it, John. I've long maintained that the truth about diet and health is incredibly simple and hiding in plain sight, while the lies about diet, lifestyle, and health are incredibly complicated and constantly changing and shifting. And yes, whole industries run on that. And, frankly, I've been involved with some of them. I worked on air some years ago for Good Morning America, and the expectation was I would come on and speak enthusiastically about a different diet study every week and radically different conclusions and, why this is the diet of the week.
Well, there are a lot of people who will say, well, the nutritionists are always changing their mind and use that as a reason to stay eating what they like, what their taste buds tell them is best, rather than what their bodies would thrive best on. But I've met a really great number of nutritionists and dietitians and physicians and other health professionals who specialize in wellness and prevention. And I've met very few, very, very few who would disagree with the idea that our health would improve tremendously if we ate more vegetables, more fruits and beans and lentils and nuts and seeds, and far less processed foods and sugar and meat. But the public doesn't know that nutrition professionals agree nearly as much as they do.
Yeah, all I can say to that, John, is amen. And, as you know, I created the True Health Initiative to address that very problem. And some years ago, and this was before the True Health Initiative existed, I wrote a column for U.S. News and World Report entitled "The Myth That No Two Nutritionists Agree," because I had exactly the same experience. You know lots of people and you interact with leaders in nutrition. And, when it's time to have lunch, not only do most of us do very similar things, and just as you suggest, given the opportunity, we load up on vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans, lentils, nuts, and seeds, and we drink plain water when we're thirsty. But we actually do that across the spectrum from vegan to paleo. Even the seemingly very different dietary approaches are not really all that different. Nobody who knows anything about nutrition is eating glow-in-the-dark junk food. So, the vegan diet will be a plate of diverse greens, and the protein source will be beans or lentils. But the paleo diet, which you would think is at the opposite end of the spectrum, well, it's that same plate of greens, and it's just that there's wild salmon where the lentils would have gone, or maybe game. But, still much more alike than different, still plant predominant, still whole foods, minimally processed. I completely agree with you. And I think that's part of the truth that's hiding in plain sight because, there's some incentive for the experts themselves to talk about the differences of opinion. It's, if we all only ever say, hey, we agree about 80 to 90%, and we don't talk about the 10% we're actually working on, well, there isn't much difference among us, and, there isn't much reason to pay attention to any of us either. So I think what experts tend to do is highlight, here's what I'm doing that's different from everybody else. Listen to me now. And then, of course, the media has a vested interest in capturing people's attention, and they want to keep shuffling the message so that they've got a reason for you to tune in tomorrow.
It's hard to imagine a headline reading, "New nutrition study changes nothing."
And yet that's exactly what they ought to say time and time and time again, both because the fundamental truths have stood the test of time, and because, and of course you know this, John, we really should not be changing our minds or our understanding based on any one study anyway. Really the way science works is you do studies, and little by little by little you aggregate the evidence, and you move in the direction of understanding and truth. And then, you do a study that seems to refute what you thought you knew, and you say, well, wait a minute, let's look at the weight of evidence. How does this figure in? How was the study done? Is it totally reliable? But, you don't throw out everything you thought you knew up until yesterday because the study was published today. It just doesn't work that way. But the media pretend that it works that way. So the public basically looks at science kind of like a tennis match. The truth is over there, and the truth is over here, and the truth is over there. And, all they do looking on at that silly process is get dizzy, I think.
Yeah, the tennis match, 1 minute butter's the enemy, the next minute butter's back.
Yeah.
One day whole grains are terrific, the next day carbs are demonized, and even whole grains should be avoided. A study says...
And maybe that's unfair to tennis. Maybe it's more like ping pong, because, it's back and forth even faster. Just
faster.
Fast enough just to make you dizzy. You can't even follow the action. All you know is, I'm confused, so I'm going to keep eating fast food until they sort it out. But just as you say, John, we have sorted it out. The nutrition experts all around the world agree overwhelmingly. And this is not my opinion. It's not your opinion. We know it's true. We've asked. We have evidence. We did a conference a few years ago in Boston. I co-chaired this with Walter Willett, who was chair of nutrition at Harvard at the time. Sponsored by Old Ways, and we brought these diverse nutrition experts from very different points of view and countries all around the world to see if we could map out common ground, and we did. And just as we hypothesized, across all these different disciplines and points of view, massive agreement about the fundamentals. And now the True Health Initiative is more than 400 experts from over 40 countries, and same thing. These are all people who signed up to say, hey, the thing that I work on may be the paleo diet, or it may be the vegan diet, or it may be the Mediterranean diet. But we all agree about the fundamentals that matter most, and they run through all of these different dietary patterns. All of the dietary patterns that are good are variations on a common theme.
So what I hear you saying is that although many people have the impression that nutrition experts can't agree with each other or even with themselves sometimes, the truth is that there really is a great global consensus among leading experts about the fundamentals of healthy and sustainable eating and its effects on chronic conditions. And that you have founded the True Health Initiative, which is a coalition of health experts from around the world who are committed to educating on the proven principles of lifestyle as medicine. And Ocean and I are honored to be council members.
I'm honored to have you both, and this kind of opportunity with you, John, is a great way to highlight the caliber of people there, people like you and Ocean who've devoted your lives to helping to disseminate these truths that we know really can improve the quality of people's lives. They really can add years to lives and life to years, and we have to do all we can to overcome the background noise in our culture that we all should be waiting for the next fad diet to come along, or we just need to fixate on some new food or nutrient. So this week it's coconut oil, and who knows what it's going to be next week, but we need to just keep falling in and out of love with a whole sequence of quick fixes and false promises. Well, I know you've devoted your career to talking people out of that and to putting together several crucial priorities. What is the impact of diet on our own health? What is the impact of our dietary choices on how we treat other creatures that share this planet with us? And what is the impact of our dietary choices on this beautiful world of ours, which we're kind of burning our way through? Diet is a big part of that. So we have an incredible opportunity in front of us, but we have to clarify the truth to people. And so, again, I'm honored to have you both on the council and to work with you in this effort to try and get the truth out. And it's interesting, John, because, like everybody else in medicine, I'm eager every year to hear what the Nobel Prizes are awarded for, what the great advances are. And yet I find myself thinking year after year, we know how to prevent 80% of all chronic disease and 80% of premature death associated with all that chronic disease right now. And we've known literally for decades, and we don't do it. And we don't need a new Nobel Prize to do it. We just need to turn what we've long known about diet and lifestyle and health into what we routinely do. So this particular mission, taking what we know and making sure people understand that we know it, is absolutely crucial.
I think it's absolutely extraordinary that we could slash our risk of heart disease and cancer and diabetes by 80% or more. And you've been speaking about this a lot. One of the studies where this became most clear and most incontrovertible is the European Prospective Investigation into Cancer and Nutrition. And that study did conclude, or one can conclude from the data in it very clearly, that if we just get four things right, not smoking, maintaining a healthy weight, being active, and eating well and consciously, we can reduce our risk of chronic diseases by 80%. And that's a stunning thing. I mean, it would be, I think you've said this before yourself, it would be among the most spectacular advances in the history of public health.
That does sound like me. Yeah, that is absolutely true, John. And you're quite right. In fact, one of my favorite papers to cite is by Earl Ford and colleagues, and the data are from the EPIC study. And exactly as you say, those four clear lifestyle adjustments: don't smoke, eat vegetables, fruits, whole grains habitually, be active, control your weight, which, by the way, isn't really a separate thing, because if you eat well and are active, that tends to take care of itself. 80% lesser likelihood of developing heart disease, cancer, stroke, diabetes, dementia, all the bad stuff that none of us wants, and none of us wants to happen to anybody we love. Yeah, I mean, we're staring at the solution and neglecting it. Neglecting it as individuals who I think fail to appreciate in the context of a culture that runs on Dunkin' and peddles multicolored marshmallows as part of a complete breakfast, that we have that potential to immunize ourselves against chronic disease, and neglecting it at the level of our culture because, let's face it, whole industries profit by propagating obesity and chronic disease. And then additional industries profit by treating it. So, essentially we've got big food making massive profits by peddling junk as food. We've got big publishing and big media profiting by changing the message about what we should be eating all the time. And then we've got big pharma and big medicine profiting by developing drugs and surgery to treat what better use of feet and forks would have prevented in the first place. And around and around and around we go.
There are people today saying that we've become fatter and sicker because we've followed flawed expert advice, and that, in fact, meat, butter, and cheese have a central role to play in an optimally healthy diet. David, how much credibility, scientifically, does that view have?
None. Absolutely none. For several reasons, John. First, we never followed expert dietary advice. We completely mucked up expert dietary advice. And maybe the most vivid example of that historically is the work of Ansel Keys, famous physiologist and one of the earliest scientists to recognize the link between diet and chronic disease. He developed the K ration. It's named for him. That stands for, it's the K for Keys. That was crucial in feeding our troops in combat and in the field. But Keyes really was the first to recognize that coronary disease might not be an inevitable consequence of aging, but could relate to lifestyle. His work, the famous 7-country study, led to the conclusion that there was an association between diets high in animal foods and saturated fat and increased risk of coronary disease, among other things, and that we would be better off getting unsaturated fat from nuts and seeds and olives and avocado and maybe some fish and seafood, basically eating a Mediterranean-style diet. That's really what Keyes advocated for. It's what he did himself. So here in the U.S., we took that completely sensible expert advice, turned it into just cut fat, which basically meant everybody went on eating pepperoni pizza but chased it down with Snackwell cookies. But in contrast, John, in North Karelia, Finland, they actually did apply the expert advice. So there was a community-wide effort led by epidemiologists to shift diets away from animal foods toward more plant foods, away from saturated fat sources like meat and dairy, and toward unsaturated fat sources like nuts and seeds and olive and avocado and more fish and seafood in the place of meat. So here we did just get fatter and sicker.
And in Finland, they reduced heart disease and cardiovascular risk by 80%.
Exactly. And added 10 years to average life expectancy. So again, everything about the proposition that, we followed expert advice and that made us fatter and sicker is wrong. We never followed expert advice. We just kept doing silly things. We cut fat in a silly way and got fatter and sicker. We cut carbs in a silly way and got fatter and sicker. These days we're cutting gluten and lectins and fructose in silly ways and getting fatter and sicker because every step of the way we've neglected the big picture, which is wholesome foods in a sensible combination, and the science has always pointed at that.
There's a question I want to ask you that is going to take me a little time to create context for, because it's kind of complex and it's fascinating to me. So I do want to ask you this. I mean, one of the reasons that people feel so powerless to make healthy food choices today is that, unbeknownst to many of us, the big food companies have been involved in something very dark. They've been systematically engineering foods to be addictive. Now, that thought that I've just expressed, that the food giants have intentionally engineered many of the foods that they sell to us to be addictive, can seem paranoid. It can seem extreme. It can seem like some kind of conspiracy thinking. But I don't think it's just a matter that people don't have enough willpower or that the companies are just giving the people what they want. I think there's more to it. There has been for many years now a conscious and deliberate effort. It's been taking place in labs and in marketing meetings, and it's taking place in grocery store aisles. And the goal is to get people hooked on the ultra-processed foods that fill the shelves of our food stores and that people are eating so much of today. And food companies do this on purpose. They pay people that they call craveability experts. That's the actual industry term. And they pay these craveability experts hundreds of millions of dollars to develop food products that will hijack our taste buds, that will hijack our brain chemistry, and that will entice us to eat far more of those foods than we should be. That's good for us. Let me give you one example. The Frito-Lay company has a huge research complex near Dallas. They employ nearly 500 chemists there and psychologists and technicians, and they conduct research that costs more than $30 million a year just to run that one research complex, all to enhance the craveability factor in their products. So, David, there are people in our culture today who believe that the moon landing was faked or that the Sandy Hook massacre didn't actually happen. They believe in conspiracies that strike me as bizarre, but that does not mean that there aren't actual conspiracies taking place. And what I want to ask you after this long introduction is, do you view the efforts by the food giants to engineer many of the foods that we eat to be addictive to be an actual conspiracy?
I do. But, John, before I say more about that, I just want to point out to the audience how privileged they are to have you leading these interviews. Somebody who, is so devoted to really knowing the content matter, to really knowing the topic, to asking all the right questions. Because it doesn't really matter who you bring on to talk to. You're steering the conversation with the questions you pose, and you do it so beautifully. You have such a good mastery of the crucial issues.
Well, thank you, David.
I trust the folks that follow you and are tuning in are aware of that, but I just want to thank you for that. It's really so important.
Well, thank you, David. Thank you very much.
It's absolutely true, and you're referring to the recent work of, among others, Michael Moss, who's a Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative journalist, who's highlighted this problem in the New York Times and in his book called Sugar Fat. It's fascinating to me that there was a 4-part expose in the Chicago Tribune the better part of a decade and a half ago now, highlighting exactly the same thing, that tobacco industry scientists and food industry scientists were collaborating using functional MRI machines to scan people's brains and figure out what combinations of additives and flavorants would both make it more likely that young children could be attracted to cigarettes and make it more likely that people wouldn't be able to stop eating. As the folks at Lay's told us, bet you can't eat just one. What I think the public failed to recognize at the time was that was a threat, and they had done the science to back it up. Absolutely, this is a conspiracy. And I think it's also a conspiracy that we have a food supply willfully engineered to be something very much like addictive, and yet somehow we find ourselves talking about willpower, as if this should all just be our problem, and somehow we should be able to overcome the work of highly paid, highly trained, large, multidisciplinary teams of scientists using the best modern technology to figure out how to make it impossible to stop eating the food they're selling us. Well, boy, that just doesn't seem fair to me. This is a conspiracy that we've been told about, that's right in front of us, that affects all of us, affects our children. And I'm wondering all the time, where is the outrage? Where is the righteous indignation? Every loving parent and grandparent should be outraged that large companies are essentially willfully mortgaging the health of our children to improve corporate profits.
And people end up feeling like it's some kind of moral failing on their part, and it's not.
Right, and that's the other tragedy of the emphasis of willpower, because, if it's all about willpower and you don't get it right, then it's your fault. And by the way, and I'm sure we agree about this, John, as individuals, we are all somewhat responsible for ourselves. We have to care about our choices and care about making the best choices we can. But, the idea that it's all about willpower and isn't also about skill power and corporate responsibility is ludicrous. It's like throwing somebody into the water without ever having taught them how to swim and then blaming them for drowning, right? But lest this part of our discussion, John, get depressing, there is something I want to point out, and you're well aware of this as well, and that is taste buds are adaptable little fellas. They learn to love the foods they're with, and those of us who do eat wholesome foods and sensible combinations are not suffering. We love it.
Yes.
My wife is a fabulous cook. She's from southern France originally, so it's a Mediterranean-inspired diet in the Katz household, plant predominant, and it's delicious. I love it. I mean, we have a wonderful diet. It's a source of great pleasure, and that's true all around the world. People who eat really well are not suffering. It's just that, if you eat highly processed junk all the time, you get used to that. Your palate gets corrupted, and you think that's what food is supposed to taste like, and everything else tastes funny to you. But you can rehab your palate and taste buds. Little by little, move to less processed, more wholesome food. Your taste buds adapt. Your taste buds go through rehab. They come out of their sugar and salt and chemical-induced coma, and all of a sudden they're more sensitive to all those things, and actually you come to prefer the simpler tastes of wholesome foods and herbs and spices rather than food chemicals. And then there's no going back, because you actually don't like the taste of all that junk.
It's true.
People should understand you can get to a place where it's not, oh, woe is me, I can't eat glow-in-the-dark food anymore, I'm always going to miss it. You're not going to miss it. You'll be glad you gave it up. You can love food that loves you back.
It's so true. You said people who eat really well are not suffering. I see so much suffering in the people who don't eat well because they are overweight and they are susceptible at much higher levels to Alzheimer's and obesity and diabetes and heart disease and cancer. I don't think there's much fun in any of that.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important, John. There are two kinds of pleasure we should be deriving from our relationship with food. One is the immediate gratification of eating food that tastes good. And the other is the combination of the immediate and long-term gratification that comes from eating food that makes us feel good and be well and be vital. And I think people overlook the fact that those two can be combined. I think people overlook the fact that the very kinds of foods and diets that are conducive to long-term vitality actually change how you feel later today. You're less sluggish, you have more energy. There really is an immediate return in terms of vitality. But then I think people are also overlooking the big prize, which is more years in your life, more life in your years. Food is the fuel for all of that, and high-performance bodies over the course of a lifetime need high-performance fuel. And most people are neglecting that opportunity. And again, we're not saying it's their fault. We're saying there are a lot of modern cultural forces that basically impel people to neglect that opportunity. But the result is sad, just as you're describing. People who are missing out on the opportunity for both the pleasure and delight that you can get from really good food, but more importantly, the pleasure and delight that you get from really good health. And so when we see that happening and know how unnecessary it is, I'm sure it makes your heart heavy, John, and it does just the same to me.
Well, when you talked about the pleasure and delight, the vitality, the vibrancy of eating well, living well, having a healthy body and a healthy mind, and to me that is such a joy, and there's a paradox here, and I want to ask you about this. And this is this is a complex thought, so give me a moment. I see you, David, as one of the best informed and one of the most powerful voices in the world today on the incredible power of our food choices and our lifestyle. You speak clearly and often about how excellent nutrition and healthful life choices can add years to our lives and enhance the quality of our lives. You're telling us that we could prevent 80% of all chronic disease and premature death, and that the science is very solid on that. And for all of this, David, I applaud you, I stand with you, and I'm grateful to you. And yet, we live in a world where children sometimes develop brain cancer, a world in which non-smokers sometimes get lung cancer and smokers sometimes don't. I mean, prevention's powerful, but it's not perfect. And I'm thinking right now of a woman who I knew very well and loved deeply. Her name was Thompson. She was a documentary filmmaker who ate very healthfully. She did yoga. She practiced stress reduction techniques. She meditated daily. She exercised regularly. She had a loving circle of friends and family. I was honored to be one of them. She was successful in her career. She did work that was creative and of great service to others. She was a wonderful woman, and she died of breast cancer at the age of 43. Clearly, we don't want to dismiss the power of prevention because it isn't perfect. But many people feel resigned today. They know how toxic and polluted our world is, and they just don't feel that individual choices can make that much difference. And some even draw the conclusion that cancer is so random that what you eat just hardly matters at all. And David, what I want to ask you about is how do you live with the paradox of all this, that prevention is so powerful, but it isn't perfect. And sometimes we lose people we love prematurely.
Well, John, first of all, I'm very sorry about your loss and the tragic premature death of your friend. And the timing of this is ironic for me because I have a very similar story. In my case, a colleague and dear friend I worked very closely with for 15 years did everything right, calm and meditative and slept well and exercised and ate well and avoided toxins and had a beautiful, loving family, and died of esophageal cancer at 42. So I've got exactly the same story, and I've really been suffering through the loss of my friend and colleague, and it's churned up all those same questions. And I thank you for the kind words about me and my work, but in that work, as a preventive medicine specialist, I have long recognized that what this is all about is kind of like being the captain of a ship. And all we can ever hope to do is master the ship and sails. We will never control the wind and waves. And so, that simple analogy kind of puts everything into perspective. If you're a really good captain on a really good ship, so being captain means the choices that you make and the ship is your body, well, you are so much more likely to make a safe crossing than somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, doesn't make good choices, or where, the ship is riddled with problems like rotten wood and such. So, essentially all of the things that we might do to our bodies that weaken them. You are much, much more likely to sail across the years intact and enjoy a bounty of years in life and life in years. But there is no guarantee, because the best captained ship and the most seaworthy vessel could encounter a storm unpredictably that causes it to founder. That's how health is. None of us gets a guarantee. You can do everything right. Bad things can happen to good people who make all the right choices. What we're really talking about here, though, is probability. And overwhelmingly, the likelihood that you and the people you love will live long and prosper with vitality rises with good lifestyle choices and health-promoting environment, and declines with the converse. So, there really is no paradox. What we're able to adjust is probability, and I think all of us know anecdotes of people who do everything wrong, smoke 5 packs a day, and, occasionally get run over by a train and keep going. And then we know people who do absolutely everything right and die tragically and prematurely. But at the level of the population, at the level of probability, we can massively shift the odds in our favor. And that's the best we can do, because none of this comes with a guarantee.
I'm sorry for your loss of your friend and I guess colleague as well in some ways.
Thank you.
When my friend died, I suffered a lot of grief, and I also felt what a tragedy it was. And I thought, well, in this case, in the case of the woman I was speaking of, that you couldn't point to anything in her lifestyle. It was so exemplary, really. But I looked around at all the people who were basically taking paths towards that kind of an outcome, cancer, premature death, making choices that would take them there. And I wanted to spare them and their families and their loved ones that kind of grief that I was going through, and that all of us who loved Claire went through, because it is, in many cases, it's not necessary. And so to me, the loss of someone who did everything right actually motivated me even more to help others avoid that kind of suffering when it isn't necessary, when it can be avoided.
Yeah, well, and partly, John, that's just testimony to the kind of person you are, who's deeply compassionate and always looking for ways to pay it forward. But I agree with you. So, again, there's nothing you can do, and there's nothing I can do. Of course, as a physician, I've been taking care of patients for 25 years, and, we kind of sign up to prevent death and calamity, and we don't always succeed. And it's, it is just part of the gig to know you're not always going to win those fights. After all, living is 100% fatal in the end. So, we're going to lose patients. It's a question of when. But I agree with you completely. It's when you see bad things happen for no apparent reason, and you can't really account for them, and they're just tragic. You think, well, boy, this was terrible. But so often, there is an obvious explanation for why this kind of calamity occurs. And it's horrible that it's going to occur occasionally without obvious explanation. But 80% of the time when it happens, we know exactly why it's happening and we know how to fix it. So shouldn't we double down on that? Shouldn't we do everything we can to reduce this to the irreducible minimum? Because, you losing a friend and I losing my friend, we know how terrible it feels, when that hole opens up in your life and there's just nothing to fill it. And I think if you're a compassionate person, for a while you're just grieving and kind of mostly thinking about yourself and the other people immediately affected. But then over time you start to think, this kind of pain is terrible. Every time it happens, everybody who experiences it, what can I do to help other people avoid this. And the truth is there's so much we can do to reduce our risk of exposure to that and to reduce the risk of exposure in the network of people we love. No guarantee. We're never going to prevent it 100% of the time. But if we can prevent it 80% of the time, I agree with you, John. You look at these tragedies and say, wow, that just motivated me to care more than I ever even did before about doing everything possible to prevent this when we know how, because most of the time we know how.
David, you dedicated your book, your last book, Disease Proof, to your patients. And you wrote, with gratitude for the rewarding privilege of sharing skills in pursuit of health. I want to thank you for doing that in your life and in your work so fully. And I want to thank you for doing just that with us today, with sharing your enormous knowledge and your commitment to health with us. And speaking with you, I know why there has been support for you over the years to become the nation's Surgeon General. And it's not going to happen in our current administration, but I hope it does down the line.
Thank you, John. And again, I want to thank you and Ocean, not just for your tireless devotion to these important causes, but again, for sort of leading these efforts with knowledge and wisdom and a gentle kind of fortitude that really is I think a signature attribute of both of you, and with such dedication to really getting it right, to knowing the content and to leading discussions like this one so beautifully. It's a privilege, it really is, to join you anytime.
We've been talking here with Dr. David Katz, founding director of the Yale Griffin Prevention Research Center and founder of the True Health Initiative. David, in a world in which nutritional dialogue and medical practice are so often dominated by commercial and political agendas, your voice is one of sanity, clarity, and of love. We want to thank you for your leadership and for your partnership in the food revolution.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be involved.
Thank you so much to Dr. David Katz and to my dad and colleague, John Robbins, for that illuminating, informative, and inspiring conversation. To express your opinions on what you've been hearing and to find out what other people are saying, post and engage in the comments section on our broadcast page. Make sure to refresh the comments using the button that's provided there so you can see the most recent ones. Our next presentation will be an interview with Kathy Freston. It will start at the top of the next hour, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, 4 p.m. GMT, followed by Dr. Susan Peirce Thompson at the top of the hour after that. Angela Roberts said, I have truly enjoyed this summit so far, especially the speakers that promote the connection between plant-based eating and reduction of cancer cells. Having been through 2 years of unsuccessful cancer therapies for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, I knew I needed to take matters into my own hands. In January of this year, I began trying a plant-based, dairy-free diet. By February, I was able to strictly follow the diet with no problems. In March, I was at my last appointment for being admitted for CAR T-cell therapy. My doctor then informed me that I would not be having the CAR T-cell therapy because my cancer had disappeared. I was in disbelief. I have an appointment next week for one more PET scan to confirm my cancer remission, but I am confident it will be clear also. Please keep promoting and sharing the numerous benefits of the plant-based diet. Thank you to you and all of the presenters. Wow, Angela. Thanks for sharing that with us. And congratulations. I am so happy. And of course, our prayers go with you into your next appointment. And we hope that this cancer is gone for good. And I'm so happy that you've gotten these results and that you're sharing them with us. We hear these stories so often. And a lot of people have actually been asking as various questions along the lines of how long does it take for taste buds to change so we can enjoy good food. So I'll just highlight for those listening and having that question that Angela just said it took her about a month to find herself really following her strict diet with no problems. It varies from person to person. It depends partly how addicted you are to processed foods, whether you're literally addicted or just have compulsions or draws. It depends on your environment. It depends whether you're able to draw bright lines. If an alcoholic keeps having a little drink now and then, it can be really hard to stay with it, an alcohol-free life. And similarly, when you're addicted to food, you need to draw some bright lines. We're going to hear a lot more about that from Dr. Susan Peirce Thompson in about an hour and a half. And I'm very excited because she has some breakthrough research on this that she'll be sharing with us. She's helped people lose over 400,000 pounds in the last 3 years. You're going to hear how. And a lot of it is about food freedom, about helping people claim their food freedom. And it starts with those bright lines. So we'll be looking at that. But the bottom line is that your taste buds can change. And so can your gut bacteria, by the way. We have an incredible wealth of wisdom in our digestive tracts. The bacteria in our guts digest our food. They secrete all sorts of chemicals that directly influence how we feel. And they also may be part of what makes us feel hungry. When you feel a hunger rumbling in your belly, you might want to ask every once in a while, is that me or is that my bacteria who are hungry? Now, here's the fascinating thing that I've been pondering recently, is if the bacteria in your digestive tract are fed by sugar, then you're going to get more of the kinds of bacteria that like what? Sugar. If they're fed by vegetables and fiber and whole foods, then you're going to get more of the kind of bacteria that like vegetables and fiber and whole foods. So it stands to reason that you are actually promoting bacteria in your digestive tract with the food you eat, and they in turn will encourage you to do it more, to eat more of the foods they like. So if you want to start having hunger for foods that are good for you, then one of the best ways to help that happen is to eat foods that are good for you. It's a positive feedback loop. We heard from Beulah Bonugli, who asked, we have organic blueberries and non-organic wild blueberries in our supermarket. Which is the best? Well, obviously, there's no one-size-fits-all answer for every situation. Other people are also asking about dried blueberries, and because we've been hearing so much about how great blueberries are in this summit. But I would say, Beulah, that if it was me, I would probably go with the wild blueberries in this situation because, my goodness, they are potent. They are powerful health promoters. And that said, organic is pretty awesome too, and we've heard that there's some pesticide exposure on blueberries that can be a concern. So, I don't know that I have a perfect answer on this, but that would probably be my direction. And I also say if you can get organic wild blueberries, well, that's the best. And you may be able to talk to the stalker at your local supermarket and ask if, or whoever does the ordering for the freezer section, and ask if whether they could perhaps obtain some wild blueberries that are organic, because I can tell you they do exist. And in fact, we get these big bags of them. You can get them I think it's a couple pounds, and it's a little cheaper when you get big quantities. So those are some thoughts. Organic is obviously best for a lot of reasons. It's best for the earth. It reduces our pesticide exposure. It's more sustainable. It's better for farm workers. But we don't want to make the perfect into the enemy of the good. There are a lot of studies that have shown people getting tremendous health benefits from eating blueberries, as well as greens, as well as all sorts of other foods. And for the most part, those studies were conducted on people who were eating non-organic versions of those foods. So perhaps if they were eating organic versions, their health outcomes would have been even more tremendous. But we do know that eating greens and berries and other healthy foods is good for us, whether they're organic or not. We heard from Cheryl Johnson, who said, I only purchase grass-fed organic meats and organic poultry. Do you believe these meats are okay to consume, or do you believe that only plant-based eating is healing? Well, Cheryl, the reality is we actually don't have any long-term studies that have been conducted on human beings who were eating pasture-raised, organic, grass-fed meat and dairy products over the course of a period of time. The vast majority of the meat and dairy products and poultry that are available today come from factory farms. And so most of the studies we've seen were done on people who were eating primarily those products. So there are some theories and some good reasons to back them up that pasture-raised is healthier in any number of ways for the human body, as well as obviously being more compassionate to animals and more sustainable for the planet. However, when it comes to human health, there isn't a lot of study there. So, to some extent, you need to listen to your body. I think we know that on the whole, eating large amounts of animal products is not associated with positive health outcomes. And my personal belief is that probably would hold true for even with pasture-raised products, that if you're basing your diet heavily around those products, you're probably going to face some long-term health problems. But if you're going to include some, then certainly pasture-raised is the way to go. And listen to your body and see what makes sense for you. I think the direction is clear when we look at the blue zones around the world where people live the longest and healthiest lives. They typically get between 0 and 5 or 10% of their calories from animal products. In the United States and North America in general, we get about 30% of our calories from animal products. So the direction towards less is clear, but whether it's 0% or 5 or 10% is perhaps a matter of listening to your body and seeing what makes sense for you. And I would add that if you're going to eat animal products, I totally support the pasture-raised direction. Keep in mind that there is a lot of hucksterism in false labeling in this area. So if you can actually talk to farmers, if you can actually visit their farms, that's the best. Farmers markets can be good sources, for example, if you're going to eat meat products. But just because something says organic or says cage-free does not mean that it was humane. It does not mean that it's sustainable, and does not mean that it's safe necessarily either. So look a little deeper and see what you can learn. With the empowerment package, when people get it, they actually get a guide we put together. It's one of the 28 bonuses that come with it that lists all of the different certifications and labels that are widely used in North America today, and looks at what they actually mean. And this includes how animals are raised, as well as organics and fair trade and all sorts of other certifications and labels that we see out there. So you can actually know what they mean and what they don't mean. We heard from Anne Marie Matilla, who said, "Thank you, thank you, thank you. My first time to hear Food Revolution Summit, and I am so grateful for all the good tips and talks. Been listening to each one, even when my schedule is crazy. Often falling asleep with headphones listening to you guys. But it is important to learn since I am trying to help my dad, who has dementia and Alzheimer's disease, and my stepmom, who has stomach cancer, and another 2 friends with different cancers, brain and breast cancers. This is so important. Thank you so much." Well, Anne-Marie, our love and our prayers go out to you and to your dad and your stepmom and your friends, and of course to you too. Whenever we're caring for loved ones, whenever we're supporting them as they're going through difficult times, I think it's really important to remember that the care providers are profoundly impacted too. You know, anybody who's listening who's ever cared for somebody who was in a health crisis knows exactly what I'm talking about. We focus so much on giving, and taking care of other people, and sometimes by the end of a health crisis, the givers are deeply depleted and exhausted as well. So, you know, if ever you're seeing a family going through a health crisis, think about the support people and how you can support them too. Because sometimes they forget about themselves. Sometimes we forget about ourselves. And I think that's true in general for those of us who are givers and who love to serve and contribute and brighten the lives of people around us. We can so easily forget about ourselves. So Anne-Marie and everybody else who is in that position right now, I just want to give yourself some love. I invite you to give yourself some love and hold yourself close and know that this information that you're gaining here hopefully can give you more vitality and more energy and more vibrancy to meet whatever challenges life brings you, and enable you to more deeply and powerfully support the people you care about. I think an overflowing cup gives most bountifully. One of the things that I love in this work is getting to hear all these amazing stories of people who are living the food revolution, and I love sharing them. One of the stories that inspired me came from Maya Amar from Fairfax, California. She recorded it for us. This is Maya's story in her own words.
Well, I've been sort of a chronic yo-yo dieter for about 40 years. I've always had issues with weight and health and congestion and digestive issues and just all of those kind of minor nagging things that I felt like I just had to live with, because that's kind of how it was with me. I always had a Kleenex up to my nose, and I was always feeling overweight and bloated and tired and exhausted. And so I really just started wanting to find a way to stabilize because I'd done just about every kind of diet there was out there. And in 2013, a friend of mine who was my massage therapist at the time was telling me about the food revolution and said, hey, there's this free summit online. Check it out. And I didn't have a lot going on in my life at the time. And I thought, well, this is interesting. And I started listening and I immediately heard amazing information. It was just so easy to love listening to those interviews because of John Robbins and his heart and compassion and his message, and also Ocean. And the two of them together are just a beautiful combination of spirit and compassion and information. And they culled all this amazing stuff from these experts that I was really blown away by. And I just was addicted to that. I just went, this is my path. And within about 3 months of listening to those first series of interviews on the summit, I made a commitment to just drop the meat, the dairy. I'd already been off sugar and refined flours for a while, and I just watched my body transform. It was pretty miraculous. And what I also noticed was that my heart opened up with compassion, not only for the animals, but also for all of us that are suffering in our way, and kind of deadening ourselves a bit with the way we eat and the way we go numb and refuse to feel our feelings. So that's kind of what brought me here.
Well, thank you so much to Maya for those inspiring words and for being willing to open your heart. You know, I think one of the great lies of our times is that we are isolated consumers who are fundamentally just looking out for number one in a dog-eat-dog world. But I think the reality is that we are far more connected, far more interdependent than we often realize. And that when we open our hearts to the compassion that lives in them, when we feel that our lives are in alignment with our values and with what we truly want for the world around us, then something grows in us. We become more whole, we become more powerful, we become more capable. Because I believe that when we feel that our lives are of service and contribution, they take on a potency and a vibrancy and a power that is greater than our strength alone. And I believe that when we bring our food choices into alignment with our values, one of the powerful things that happens is that we don't just enjoy greater personal health, we also enjoy greater sense of congruency because we're eating food that is actually contributing to a world that we want, and then our hearts are bigger in relationship to that world. We heard from Teresa Rose, who said, I started eating organic a few years ago. Sadly, my adult daughter does not believe in the value of organic foods. I've been trying to keep an open mind about her way of thinking lately, so when I heard about your summit, I was excited, hoping I'd learn information that might give me clarity based in facts. I wasn't sure how I'd feel about it, so I hesitated to share the information with my friends. After listening to the first speakers, I was so impressed, I texted all my friends about the summit. I've been putting everything aside these last days to listen to the speakers while taking copious notes. I feel like an eager child taking in so much nurturance. Just what I was needing. I look forward to digesting this information over the coming year. Already I've tweaked my diet, adding an extra vitamin D and B12, and I hope at some point I can gently share this information with my daughter. One thing I can definitely do is lead by example. Thank you, John and Ocean, and all the amazing speakers. What a gift. I so appreciate all the work you are doing to contribute to the well-being of humanity and our planet. Well, Teresa, thank you so much for your kind words. And I hear you taking all these notes and participating so fully, and you don't have to take notes anymore if you don't want to, because we're going to gift you with an empowerment package. You will now have the MP3s and transcripts for life, so you can look at everything in detail, and you can share with your daughter whatever you think might be of interest to her, whatever might be useful for her. You'll own it for life, and I know you will put it to good use. So congratulations. Our team will follow up with you. And congratulations also to our other most recent empowerment package owners, including Steve from Moreno Valley, California, Sophia from the Netherlands, Michelle from Washington, Lucia from New Jersey, Ahmad from Canada, Mary from France, Linda from North Carolina, Gina from the United Kingdom, Sharon from Colorado, and everybody else who is stepping forward and owning it for life. We want to congratulate you, and we really want to thank you, because Food Revolution Network, as you may have noticed, is on a mission. We want healthy, ethical, sustainable food for everybody. We want to share this information as widely as possible with the 327,000 people that are in the summit now, and with all the people that might be in it next year, and with all the people that will visit our blog and sign up for our email list and join our movement. We are on a mission, and we want to ask for your support in this mission in every way that the food revolution speaks to your heart. And if owning an empowerment package and supporting our mission in that way is something that works for you, we're so grateful. We heard from Michelle Saunders, who said, yesterday I was listening to the rebroadcast of the prior day while prepping my morning smoothie. My husband was in another room watching his favorite sports team. When he heard the rebroadcast, he turned off the television to listen. I was happy he was listening. I've struggled with trying to get him to eat more plant-based meals, so I'm hoping hearing from you and your panel of experts will inspire him to make much-needed changes. Thank you for all the work you do and the information you share. No matter how much I think I know, I'm always learning something new. Well, Michelle, thank you for sharing. Congratulations on inspiring your husband to tune in and listen with you. And you know, this is one of the challenging things, isn't it? For a lot of us, we learn, we grow, and then we obviously want the people closest to us to learn and grow with us. And sometimes they have their own pace, their own rhythm, and their own process. And so I do think you're right that sometimes it's easier for people close to us to hear it from somebody else rather than from us. This is even true for me. Sometimes I have to share, interviews with our speakers for people in my family or people I'm close to kind of get this message. Because if I talk about it, they think, oh, that's just Ocean. That's him doing his thing. And they kind of tune it out a little bit. So that is one of the resources everybody listening has. You can share this summit with people you love, and that can be a way to engage them. And there are also a lot of great books and films that can support them in the process. Well, here we are. It is now time for us to move to the next segment of our broadcast. So this is an interview with Kathy Freston. Welcome to the Food Revolution Summit, where we explore how you can heal your body and your world with food. This is Ocean Robbins, and I am joined by my dad and colleague, John Robbins, in welcoming our guest, Kathy Freston. With clarity and kindness, Kathy is here to clear up protein confusion and to help you lean into the life that you want. She's the author of 8 books, including instant New York Times bestsellers like The Lean and Quantum Wellness. You might have seen her in many appearances on shows including Ellen, Dr. Oz, Charlie Rose, Good Morning America, The Talk, The Martha Stewart Show, Extra, and Oprah. In her most recent book, Clean Protein, Kathy and her co-author Bruce Friedrich explain how to know how much protein is right for you, where to get the best sources of it, and how to incorporate healthy protein into an excellent diet. So now, Kathy, my dad and I are so grateful we get this time with you. And now I'm going to hand it over for the interview to my dad, John Robbins.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Ocean.
And thank you, Kathy, for being with us today.
Thank you for having me on. I love what you guys are doing.
Well, we love what you're doing too. And now you've written a book about protein. And we're going to talk about protein a lot today. The word protein derives from a Greek word that literally means of primary importance. And we definitely need protein to survive. All of the key neurotransmitters in our brains, for example, are made of protein. So we really do need to get enough protein. But Kathy, is it possible that our supersized culture has created a dangerous fallacy that when it comes to protein, more is always better?
It's a fallacy, all right, because we're getting probably at least 50% more than we should be getting, and that's not healthy, especially when the protein is coming from animal sources. It's very hard on our kidneys. It's strains our kidneys. That's why there's so much kidney disease in this country. It's clogging up our arteries if it's from animal protein. So yes, the problem we're having in this country is not that we're not getting enough protein. The problem is we're not getting enough healthy protein, clean protein. We're not getting enough fiber. So yeah, we're getting too much, and we're getting too much of the wrong stuff.
There is a widespread fear in our culture that we're not getting enough protein. Kathy, according to published studies and reputable data, what percentage of Americans actually fail to get enough protein? I mean, how much protein deficiency is there actually in the United States?
Well, there is zero protein deficiency in our country. And it's just not an issue. I think that there's a problem, perhaps in sub-Saharan Africa or in countries where people struggle to get enough calories, but there's just not an issue for getting too much protein in this country. There's just zero issue. So we're just obsessed with it because the industries of meat and dairy and eggs have told us that we need more, but we just don't need more. The questions we should be asking ourselves is what kind of protein is healthiest for us?
I like that question a lot. What kind of proteins are healthiest for us? The fact is, when we rely on meat, dairy, and eggs for protein, we're not just getting protein. We are getting all the essential amino acids, but animal products also come with the types of saturated fat that have been found to be most dangerous. And since almost all animal products today come from factory farms and feedlots, they're very likely to be contaminated with hormones and pathogens and antibiotics.
Yeah.
Beans, lentils, and other legumes, and also seeds and nuts, on the other hand, are also excellent sources of protein, and they don't come with the contaminants that come with today's industrial animal products. Kathy, is this what you mean when you use the phrase clean protein?
Yes. Harvard, has spoken really succinctly about protein, the protein package. And that means what comes along with the protein. So yes, you can get protein from chicken or pork or bacon. The questions you want to ask yourself are things like how much cholesterol is coming along with this protein that I'm eating? And is it inflammatory to my body? Are there pathogens or antibiotics that might be lurking in the tissue of this protein that I'm eating? What kind of damage did the making of this protein do to our land and our water? Does it add to climate change? So just because a food is chock full of protein doesn't mean it's clean, either for the body or for our planet. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about clean protein. We're talking about, is it pure, good protein with none of these other problems, and it has a very light environmental footprint? Or is it chock full of these issues like cholesterol, saturated fat, and pathogens like E. coli and salmonella? So we want to really choose a protein that's clean and that's good for our body and good for the environment. Just like when we talk about clean energy, we're moving away from oil and gas and toward wind and solar because it's cleaner on the environment. We're also opting for clean protein rather than older sources of protein like animal protein.
There's been a widely held belief that animal protein is somehow superior. But we now have an extraordinary amount of compelling evidence telling us something very different. For one example, in Japan, after World War II, meat consumption has increased 9-fold, and dairy consumption has increased 20-fold. That's a tremendous increase of protein consumption from animal products in Japan in these recent years. But it would be very hard to say that this increase in animal protein has helped the people of Japan to be healthier. In fact, at the same time as these enormous increases in animal protein consumption have taken place in Japan, there's been a staggering 25-fold increase in prostate cancer among Japanese men, and the rates of Alzheimer's disease among both men and women there have increased 7-fold.
Isn't that incredible? And they're so correlated, which you wrote so beautifully in Diet for a New America all these years ago. And we're just catching up with you, John, which is so impressive that, even back then you knew all of this stuff. So kudos to you for sounding the alarm back then. Yeah. So take chicken, for example. Most people think of chicken as a healthy, lean meat. But, chicken consumption also increases our levels of IGF-1, which is a cancer-promoting growth hormone in the body. It's a level of inflammation. It indicates inflammation in the body. And chicken consumption also is linked to weight gain. People are finally realizing that these recommendations to eat lean meat are actually not good for us at all. We need to move away from so-called lean meat and toward cleaner sources of protein like beans and seeds and nuts and meat alternatives and things like that.
I agree that's very important, and that we really do need to understand that and put that into action. A lot of women are worried about cancer today, and about breast cancer in particular. Some who find that they carry the genes BRCA1 or BRCA2, like Angelina Jolie, are choosing to undergo prophylactic double mastectomies, a surgery that removes both breasts to reduce the risk of developing breast cancer. I'm sure that the decision to have a mastectomy was not easy for Angelina Jolie or for any woman. No, definitely not. And I greatly sympathize with the desire to reduce your risk of breast cancer. But I wonder how many women who are worried about breast cancer have been told, for example, about research done at Yale that found that women who eat 6 or more grams of soluble fiber daily have a 62% lower risk of breast cancer compared with women who eat less than 4 grams. That's an enormous reduction in breast cancer risk just from getting enough fiber in your diet. I so often hear vegetarians and vegans being asked, where do you get your protein? Kathy, have you ever heard someone, whatever their dietary preference, being asked, where do you get your fiber?
No, and that's really what we should be asking, because fiber is just the miracle component of food, and it acts like a scrub brush, pushing through the toxicity, pushing the gunk out of your body. It keeps you feeling full. It keeps your weight down because you feel full. It keeps your blood sugar steady and healthful. Basically, plant foods, plant protein is full of fiber, and on the other side of it, chicken, meat, fish, things like that have zero fiber. So that's a real problem. People are eating a lot of their protein from animal foods and they're not getting the fiber.
It is a remarkable fact that all plant proteins, beans, seeds, nuts, provide lots of fiber, while all animal-based proteins, meat, dairy products, and eggs, provide no fiber whatsoever.
Exactly. And this is something that you don't even have to think about. You know, I ask, people are asking all the time, like, how much fiber should I have? How much protein should I have? You don't even have to think about it. A great study came out in the Journal of American Medicine talking about how we really don't need to be counting calories. We don't really need to be counting protein grams or anything like that. When you're eating a whole foods diet, a whole food plant-based diet, you really don't have to worry about how much you're getting, because as long as you're consuming enough, that satiates your hunger, you're getting enough fiber if it's plant-based. You don't have to worry about that. But when you're eating your protein from animals, you not only have to worry about, oh my gosh, I'm getting a lot of cholesterol, oh my gosh, I'm getting a lot of saturated fat, but oh my gosh, I'm not getting enough fiber. So it's just easier to sort of pivot from thinking about where I get my protein. If you just think about getting it from anything that grows in the ground or on trees, then you're in a good place.
I'm thinking about a study that was published in the journal Cell Metabolism a couple of years ago. Researchers found that the more animal protein people ate during middle age, the more likely they were to die from cancer. The study focused on people ages 50 to 65, middle-aged people. And they found that those men and women who ate higher amounts of animal protein had a 400% increase in cancer death during those following 18 years. They had 4 times the risk of dying from cancer compared to those people who ate little or no animal protein. And it wasn't the amount of protein per se that mattered. It was specifically the amount of animal protein. Those people who ate a lot of protein, but it came primarily from plant sources, showed no increase in cancer risk whatsoever. The researchers found that eating a diet rich in animal protein during middle age makes you 4 times more likely to die of cancer than someone with a diet that is lower in animal protein. That is an increased mortality risk factor that's comparable to smoking. And in fact, this study was conducted at the University of Southern California. And in a press release, the university said, and I quote, "That chicken wing you're eating could be as deadly as a cigarette."
So, you want to lower your cancer risk, go to the fruit and vegetable aisle. I mean, this is a very easy thing that you can do. I remember, you were talking about this study. I remember there was a study out of Loma Linda a few years ago, Loma Linda University, which is they're really up on all the cancer and plant-based research. And they were looking at why people who are plant-based have lower rates of cancer than meat eaters. And they looked at the experiments where they placed people on different diets, and then their blood from the different people was dripped on these human cancer cells growing in a petri dish to see whose diet kicked the more cancer butt, like which one would actually make a difference. So women who were put on plant-based diets for only 2 weeks, just for 2 weeks, they were found to suppress the growth of 3 different types of breast cancer, like right in that experiment in 2 weeks. And that same blood coursing through these women's bodies gained the power to slow down and stop the breast cancer growth just with 2 weeks of eating a plant-based diet. So they showed this just by looking at a petri dish to see what was happening. And it's just fascinating how quickly your body's chemistry can change when you're eating a healthy, whole food, plant-based diet.
It is fascinating. In just 2 weeks. I mean, that's exciting news for those people who maybe feel that they've eaten poorly for a long time and who now may feel, well, it's too late to make much difference. But the study you just cited, and there are many, many others as well, telling us that it isn't too late. It's actually almost never too late, thanks to the power, the really remarkable healing power of optimal plant-based nutrition.
After just the first week of going plant-based, the weight starts to come off. You can actually see it after 1 week. And after 2 weeks, and we're talking about a healthy, whole food, plant-based diet. After 2 weeks, your blood sugar, your blood pressure start to drop. And by week 3, your cholesterol has dropped significantly. So that's a major thing that you can see right away. Your body can change so quickly and in such an empowering and positive direction when you make this shift. So it's really a worthwhile endeavor.
It really is. Kathy, I'm imagining someone who may be listening to us right now and who's finding it difficult or challenging to shift away from the meat-focused foods that are common in many U.S. households that have become normalized in our culture, and who's looking for small steps that they can take that will make a big difference. Do you have any suggestions for incremental changes, small steps that will be of substantial help?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that the first thing to do is to, when you're going grocery shopping, write down what your proteins are going to be so that you know what you're going for. So usually when I'm planning a meal, I just think in terms of what are my healthy starches, what are my proteins, and what are my fruits and vegetables in the meal. So I'll think, okay, I'm going to go shopping for my proteins. So that's going to be, I love lentils. I love black-eyed peas. I'm going to get some chickpeas, some hummus. I love a good veggie burger every once in a while, so I'll pick up one of those, maybe some veggie sausage. For those people who want to just keep it super clean, you want to stay away from the meat alternatives. Me, I believe in progress, not perfection. And then think about your healthy starches. So sweet potatoes and brown rice and some quinoa and some maybe tofu pasta. And then just, whatever your favorite vegetables are. I really like broccoli, cauliflower, kale. I'm big into super greens. They have at the supermarket something called super greens, and I just do a whole giant salad with anything I have in my kitchen. So that's the first thing, is just make your grocery list so that you know what you're going for, so you're not overwhelmed when you go in. The second thing is really enjoy some social media. Like, get onto Instagram and Facebook and follow some people that you really like what they have to say, and they'll give you lots of ideas of what to make. People are posting recipes and pictures and things like that, and that'll keep you inspired. I know on my Instagram, I like to mix it up between like why I think this way is good for the environment, good for our health, good for the animals. I also like to post recipes, and there's a ton of people out there, whether you want to follow, obviously, the food revolution, or, some plant-based athletes, or, whatever doorway you're walking through, there's about 1,000 people you could follow. That's really exciting. And then the third thing is get social with it. So, social, like the old-fashioned way, is do some meetups, meet some people, exchange some recipes, cook for each other, and make it fun. This is like a really fun process. It's not a hardcore discipline, something that should be difficult or undertaken with a grimace. This is fun. So share it with a buddy, share it with your family, let your friends in on the process, and make it an adventure.
Those are great ideas, Kathy. Thank you. And I'd like to talk with you now about beans a little bit. As you well know, more than almost anyone, Dan Buettner is the National Geographic Fellow who has studied the regions of the world with the healthiest and happiest and longest lived people. And he identified the 5 populations in the world where people enjoy especially long and healthy lives. And then he went on to write 3 New York Times bestsellers about the key characteristics of these folks' lifestyles. He says that while there are some differences in the foods consumed in these cultures, all of them consume 90% or more whole plant foods, and they all eat at least a cup of beans every day. In fact, he says that the cornerstone of every longevity diet in the world is, quite simply, beans. Now, Kathy, you, of course, know Dan very, very well.
I do.
Does he know how to cook beans so they're delicious?
I told him I would be with him for his bean stews, if nothing else. I swear to God, I'm crazy about him. We live together. He's my life partner, and there are so many things I love about him, but I think my favorite thing is the way he cooks beans. He just makes them taste so good. And he says, that's the trick, is that these cultures around the world, the reason they eat so many beans and whole grains, things like that, is because they've learned to make them taste good. So you want to just experiment with, he's got some great recipes in his Blue Zones books. We've certainly got a lot of recipes in Clean Protein. Beans are inexpensive. I mean, my gosh, you could buy a big sack of beans in the dollar store and it would feed you for a month. And they've been staples around the world for most of human history, not only because they're versatile and delicious, but because they're inexpensive. And not that the people in these cultures were thinking about it, but they're high in protein, they're high in fiber, iron, antioxidants, and they also are low on the glycemic index. And if you care, they're gluten-free. Not that that's an issue for me, but and besides that, they lower cholesterol, balance blood sugar, and give you digestive regularity. And so that's probably a lot to do with why these people enjoy such longevity in their lives, not because they're thinking about how to get there, how to live long, but because they naturally eat these foods that promote longevity.
For some folks, the downside to beans is intestinal gas. Do you have any tricks?
Well, the first and the easiest thing, you could take Beano, and that stuff is actually quite amazing. It actually works. But you can also soak your beans, and I would recommend doing that. Let it sit overnight or a whole day, and they just soften up. And then once you change out the water, the next day and then let them simmer for about an hour or so. When they're really soft, really, really soft, they're much easier to digest. And your body gets used to them. This is only in the beginning when you're new to beans that you'll have an issue, but your body really gets used to all that fiber. And soaking makes a big difference.
It does. And another trick that I'm aware of is to cook beans with a seaweed called kombu.
Yes, exactly. Kombu is Kombu. You can get it in any health food store and just put a little chunk of that, little strips of that in there, and it really makes a big difference too.
Well, that's great because beans are such a wonderful food and they're inexpensive, as you pointed out. Kathy, a moment ago, you were talking about switching to hybrid and electric cars to reduce our reliance on dirty fossil fuel energy. And it's such a great thing because you get the same performance, but cleaner and with less pollution. And in fact, in some cases, you get better performance. Tesla's Model S is the third fastest accelerating production car ever manufactured.
Isn't that incredible?
It is incredible. And I think of switching to plant sources of protein to fuel our bodies as very similar to driving a Tesla. You get all the benefits of protein, only cleaner and with less pollution, and you dramatically lower your carbon footprint. In fact, eating plant-based proteins is as huge a step in terms of reducing your carbon footprint and producing fewer greenhouse gases as driving a Tesla would be. There is some debate about the exact percentage of global greenhouse gas emissions that stem from animal agriculture. But every scientist who has looked at the issue says the contribution coming from industrial meat production is staggering.
Staggering. It's and on the land, on the water, in the climate change gases, and people are only just beginning to talk about it, but livestock accounts for more climate change gases than all the transportation in the world put together. All the cars, all the planes, all the ships, everything put together. Livestock actually causes more across the board with water pollution, with desertification, with rainforest destruction, climate change gases, everything. So it's a pretty powerful choice.
It is a powerful choice. And this is reminding me of a study that was done by two researchers at the University of Chicago a couple of years ago. They calculated that switching to a totally plant-based diet from a standard American diet would actually have a bigger impact on climate change than trading in your gas guzzler for a Prius.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
It shows how much benefit there is to our bodies, to our world, and of course to the animals who aren't forced then to suffer because we aren't eating them. It's a win-win-win across the board. The only losers, I suppose, if we want to use that phrase, are the meat and dairy industries. And they certainly don't want to lose control over what people eat. These are industries that are exerting massive influence over our nation's food policies. And they have a huge influence over what a lot of us think, and therefore what we eat. And Kathy, that's one of the reasons I think your book is so very important.
Thank you for that. It's natural to think that feeding crops to animals is not a problem because then we eat the animals. I mean, that's what most people think. Okay, well, the crops are being cycled through, but the vast majority of the calories and protein that we feed to farmed animals doesn't actually get converted to edible meat. It's sort of wasted. It's used by the animal simply as she grows, as her entire body is using the calories from her feed to create bone and feathers and organs just to get her to slaughter weight. So we're not actually, seeing that this makes sense. And even poultry, which is the most efficient source of meat, if you want to say that, it only converts to around 11% of the gross feed energy into human food. So that means you need to feed a chicken 9 calories to get 1 calorie from that animal's flesh at slaughter. So if you want to put that another way, if you want to sustain yourself on 2,000 calories of plant-based foods, you just eat 2,000 calories of plant-based foods, right? But if you want to sustain yourself on 2,000 2,000 calories of chicken, then you actually need 18,000 calories of animal feed, because that was fed to and cycled through the chicken. So that's 800% food waste. And that just doesn't make sense, because growing all of those crops to feed the animals takes a lot of resources. It takes a lot of water. It takes a lot of gas, oil, transport, harvesting, all that stuff, where we could be just consuming those calories directly and certainly feeding the global poor while we're at it.
What you're saying reminds me of one of the most influential food books ever written, the book Diet for a Small Planet, written by Frances Moore Lappé. She's been a speaker, as you have, in several of our Food Revolution summits. And her groundbreaking book pointed out exactly what you're saying, that cycling grains through animals so that humans can eat the flesh of those animals is actually a terribly inefficient method of producing protein. She called modern meat production a protein factory in reverse. And she showed that we can all help to change the world for the better and help to alleviate world hunger by eating less meat.
Yes. Yes. Grain is used so much more efficiently when we consume it directly rather than cycle it through animals. It makes sense for all the resources, the air, the water, certainly for the animals, and we can feed the global poor. That's a really exciting thing. It's such a simple way, and you reduce the pressure on global resources, and you ensure that everyone has enough to eat at the same time. So eating less meat basically helps fight hunger, and it helps fight climate change while it helps human health. So it's kind of a win-win across the board.
It's a beautiful thing, really, to see that. And I want to also bring up another point, because when Frances Moore Lappé wrote Diet for a Small Planet, her first edition of that book said that plant proteins need to be complemented in order to be made whole and complete. This idea about protein complementing has persisted, even though Frankie herself has renounced the idea. And in fact, in every edition of Diet for a Small Planet since the very first one, she's made a point of pointing out that protein combining is unnecessary. It doesn't hurt, but you're guaranteed to get plenty of protein simply by eating a variety of whole plant foods. You do not have to keep track.
That's a thing that most people worry about. Like, I've got to combine my whole grains and beans and to make sure I get a complete protein. But if you're eating these foods over the course of a day, over the course of a few days, even over the course of a week, you're getting the combinations that you need of the amino acids. And by the way, most things that you would naturally gravitate to, for instance, if you're eating hummus and crackers, okay, then you're getting a bean and a grain anyway. If you're having a tortilla with some black beans and putting some avocado on it, you've gotten everything you need. It's if you're having toast and peanut butter, you're having everything you need. But you don't have to worry about, like, what am I going to do to combine the right foods, because naturally you're going to get all the amino acids you need.
You are. And we talked about beans as a fabulous plant-based source of protein. Another great source are nuts and seeds. There's almost as much protein in a single ounce of most nuts and most seeds as there is in an entire cup of skim milk.
Isn't that incredible? They're so high. Nuts are so high in protein. But however, unlike animal-based protein sources, nuts are packed with complex carbohydrates, which are the good kind that fuel your brain with energy, and fiber. So if your goal is to maintain a healthy weight with plenty of energy, you want to eat some nuts. And there have been studies that show that people who eat nuts not only don't gain weight, but they tend to lose weight if they need to. And they're not quite sure why it is. They're not sure if it's because of the high fiber content that just keeps someone feeling satisfied, or if it just takes more energy to digest nuts. They're not sure exactly why, or if it's a little bit of everything. But when you eat nuts, you actually get to a healthy weight. And of course, they're They're rich in polyunsaturated and monounsaturated fats, and they supply energy and vitamins and minerals, and they are associated with decreased heart disease, cancer, diabetes. So they're really, really good for you. And what's interesting is seeds. Sometimes we forget about seeds, but seeds can have more protein and minerals than nuts. And they usually have less saturated fat. So they're very high in amino acids, and some of them, like flax seeds and chia seeds, are great for omega-3 fatty acids. And they're delicious snacks. They're sunflower, hemp seeds, pumpkin. I put flax and chia in my smoothies. I carry pumpkin seeds in my car. Sunflower seeds you can get at the airport. Hemp seeds are great on salads or mixed into soups. So they're fantastic too. And again, full of natural fiber.
You mentioned that you put flax and chia seeds in your smoothies. I do the same thing exactly. And I have a dedicated coffee grinder that I use only for flax and chia seeds. And I grind them pretty much every day or two, so they're always fresh. Then I sprinkle the powder, the ground flax and chia seeds powder, onto various dishes, and I put it into smoothies, and it's just fabulous.
It's so good. So I'm guessing the reason you grind your own is because flax seeds can go rancid pretty quickly. And so when we buy the pre-ground flax seeds, if you're not careful, if you don't eat them quickly and they're not refrigerated, they can go rancid. And of course, that's not good for you. So I think that's such a great idea to have a dedicated coffee grinder.
It works terrifically.
Yes, it's so good. And I have to tell you, John, that is like, if someone had asked me what my secret to health and a stable weight, over all these years, I would say it's my protein smoothie, because I have one every day. I'm kind of in the habit now of having it for lunch, and I make a gigantic smoothie. It's like pretty much 2/3 of my Vitamix I drink, and I've got coconut water and mixed with water, and I put in some protein powder, a plant-based protein powder, and then I put in a bunch of frozen vegetables like frozen broccoli, frozen kale, sometimes frozen spinach, and I put in frozen strawberries and frozen pineapple, some almond butter, some flax seeds, freshly ground. I blend that up. I don't blend in the chia because for me it just turns so thick, and it's like almost sludge. It thickens up too quickly. And so I put like maybe a tablespoon of chia seeds into it after it's already blended, and I sort of eat the whole smoothie. And John, it keeps me feeling so full for the rest of the day, so satiated. I don't have cravings. My blood sugar is steady. My brain is very sharp. I get so much done. And I am convinced that this smoothie, because I'm getting such a healthy dose of protein and vegetables and antioxidants and fiber and all that, that it just keeps me steady, not only through the day, but through the years.
And through the years, this has been one of your secrets to having long maintained a healthy and stable weight?
Yeah, it's funny because, I wasn't plant-based my whole life. And I think had I stayed in Georgia where I grew up and not really woken up to this way of eating, I don't know where I'd be now, because I was starting to gain weight. So I'm probably 12 pounds less than what I was in my early 20s, and it usually goes the other direction. As people get older, they get thicker, but I just haven't had to deal with that. And I'm pretty sure it's because I have this smoothie every day, and because I'm eating so many fiber-rich foods, I just don't have the kind of cravings that some people do when they eat, a lot of protein sources from animals. And I'm not one for discipline. Let me tell you something. I'm not good at grinning and bearing it and sort of getting through it. This girl likes to eat. So this has been a real pleasure for me to eat this way.
It is a real pleasure to eat this way for a lot of folks. In your book, you tell the remarkable story of Penn Jillette, the talking half of Penn and Teller, the famous magicians and entertainers. They once did an entire TV show devoted to mocking vegans and vegetarians as self-righteous killjoys. But can you tell us what happened to Penn Jillette?
Well, he worked with a sort of nutrition guru named Ray Cronise, who is an ex-NASA scientist, and he put him on a diet. At first it was just potatoes. I mean, just to sort of make a point and just get him. I'm not that I would suggest that, but and then he moved towards, I think, nuts and seeds and, a lot of beans. And I don't know if you knew what he looked like before, but he was quite a heavy guy. And now he is fit and slim, and he's not making fun of vegetarians anymore. He's a real believer. I think he still, has his wicked sense of humor and everything, but he's really very healthy. He's reversed a lot of the dangerous health markers that he was dealing with before.
He has. And, I'm sure Penn Jillette will always have his wicked sense of humor, but I don't think he'll be mocking vegetarians or vegans any longer. He really was a very big guy. Just a few years ago, he weighed over 320 pounds. And that's when his doctors discovered a 90% blockage in his heart. But now he's down to 220 pounds. He's lost over 100 pounds. And he says he's happier than ever. And he compares the transformation he's been through to night and day. Those are his words. He's even written a book about it with the subtitle, How I Made Over 100 Pounds Disappear and Other Magical Tales. He said recently that he's now eating a lot of nuts and seeds, and he's maintaining his fitness and his weight right where he wants them to be.
Yeah, he's not going back. It's quite amazing. And Ray Cronise, along with Juliana Hever, have just been working with a lot of overweight people and helping them to get down to a healthy weight. And they're just a brilliant team. They're doing all kinds. I think they're doing a new research project where they really show how to keep the weight off with this diet. This whole low carb thing is just sort of, you don't have to think like that anymore. You just don't have to think like that. You don't have to think about low fat either. You just want to move to plant-based sources of protein.
Kathy, I want to bring up another topic now, which you might call the sexual politics of meat. The co-author of your book, Clean Protein, is Bruce Friedrich, who is the co-founder and executive director of the Good Food Institute, and you're on the board of the Good Food Institute.
Yes.
The communications manager for the Good Food Institute, Emily Bird, recently created a petition to get In-N-Out, the California-based fast food chain, to add a veggie burger to its menu. That petition had, the very last time I saw it, about 40,000 signatures. The LA Times picked up the story, and then, sadly, came hate messages from enraged men who apparently are so insecure about their masculinity that the very idea of a veggie burger makes them feel threatened. Some of them were violent messages, and a recurrent theme of these attacks was that there is somehow something unmanly about a veggie burger. One of them wrote, "Veggie burgers are for pussies." Kathy, if stuff like this were limited to a few internet crazies, that would be bad enough. But I think what we're seeing in these messages is a toxic form of a belief that's fairly widespread in our culture. I'm talking about the belief that healthy diets are somehow less than manly, that eating salads is for women, that vegetarian diets are somehow less than manly. And what I want to ask you, as a woman and as a member of the board of directors of the Good Food Institute, why do you think these men got so worked up over someone wanting to buy a veggie burger?
I think that change is threatening to a lot of people. There's some people who, feel like nobody has the right to tell me what to do. I'm going to do what I've been doing, what my family's been doing for generations. And it's just a threat that people hang on ever so tightly. I don't know, because I admire a man when he protects the weak, and certainly not taking advantage of animals that can't protect themselves and they're trapped and can't do anything. I don't think that's a very manly thing to insist on someone else killing your animals and so that you can have your burger. I kind of don't understand it, actually. But there's a fantastic film coming out, which I'm sure you've heard about, called Game Changers. And it shows the most amazing plant-based athletes, just super achievers, whether they're marathon runners or MMA fighters, boxers, tennis players, both men and women. And they're just fierce. They're just, incredibly athletic. So I think that old school idea of veggie burgers not being manly is just, it's on its way out, and people sort of that old mindset are hanging on tightly, but it's on its way out. Young people don't really think like that anymore.
No, they don't, which I think is a good thing. I've always been struck by the fact that the most powerful primates on the planet are gorillas, and gorillas are herbivores. They eat a few insects here and there, but essentially they're vegans. They eat nothing but plants. And gorillas don't seem to be lacking in muscular strength.
Exactly. Same with stallions. Stallions are pure muscle, pure glorious muscle. And there's certainly no meat in a stallion's diet. So it just doesn't make any sense. But you maybe look at those people who are saying those kind of things, and I don't know what kind of bodies they have, how fit they are. I'm not sure, but I can tell you that the plant-based athletes that I have seen and that you'll see in this film, Game Changers, will blow your mind, because it is just, this is the new way. It's so clear that your body thrives on plant-based. You recover quicker. Your speed is faster. You're able to have more strength, because you don't have all that fat and gunk weighing you down. You've got all that fiber, which cleans out your body. So you're a clean machine. So I think that kind of desperate kind of nastiness is on its way out. And maybe it's a last gasp, for the old way.
Well, I certainly hope so. It's really time for us to outgrow the mistaken idea that some men have that eating less meat will make them less of a man. The truth is so opposite to that. Dean Ornish, who's a speaker in this summit, is featured in the film that you've been talking about, Game Changers. His research has shown that when the male participants in his program eat a whole food plant-based diet, the blood flow to their hearts improves 300%, and the blood flow to their genitals improves dramatically as well. And in many cases, their sexual function is restored.
It happens very quickly. I mean, it happens like after your last meal. So if you're eating a meaty meal, you will actually have fewer hard-ons the next day. It actually shows up that quickly. Sorry for my regular slang language, but it's so men who struggle with impotence, it's actually a sign of heart disease, and that is something that can be very much reversed by eating a clean protein, whole food, plant-based diet.
Some people think those kinds of statements are vegan propaganda, but they're not. They're actually the result of scientific studies. There's a fascinating study. It was published in the International Journal of Impotence Research, titled Mediterranean Diet Improves Erectile Function. Now, in this study, researchers tracked men who ate a Mediterranean-style diet that was rich in vegetables and rich in fruits and had plenty of lentils and beans and whole grains and walnuts. Very, very little meat. And they found that the men eating this way were far less likely to experience erectile dysfunction than men eating a typical Western-based diet.
Isn't that incredible? Once again, it's healthy for your sex life, and it also happens to be really good for your heart and good for your waistline. And oh, great, it's good for the environment and the animals. It's sort of a grand slam, win-win all around.
It is. And I want to thank you, Kathy, for being such an eloquent and compassionate spokesperson for this message. I remember you telling me that you grew up in the Deep South. You were raised on chicken fried steak and cheesy meat pies. And when you ate collard greens, they were smothered in lard.
And they were. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And now here you are. You've become one of the most powerful voices for a way of eating that's truly healthy for our bodies and for the planet and for the entire Earth community. Kathy, on behalf of Ocean and myself and everyone involved in the food revolution, I want to thank you for your work, for your vision, for your caring, and of course, for being with us today.
Thank you so much, John and Ocean. I've enjoyed your program so much, and I love talking to you.
We've been talking with Kathy Freston, author of Clean Protein, the revolution that will reshape your body, boost your energy, and save our planet, which she wrote with Bruce Friedrich. Kathy, your warmth and clarity make the food revolution irresistible. It's been an honor and a privilege to share this time with you and to share your message with all of our summit participants.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much to Kathy Freston and to my dad and colleague, John Robbins, for that uplifting conversation. To express your opinions and to find out what other people are saying, engage in the comments section on our broadcast page. Make sure to refresh the comments using the button you'll find there so you can see the most recent ones that have been submitted. Our next presentation will be an interview with Dr. Susan Peirce Thompson. It will start at the top of the hour in about 11 minutes. Diana Schultz-Harrison said, I am more encouraged by Kathy's talk than I have ever been. I am feeling excited about going plant-based soon. I will finish the proteins I presently have, but not buy more when it's gone. I can hardly wait. Thank you with all my heart, John and Ocean, for your great work. Well, thank you, Diana, and blessings on this next phase of your journey. We heard from Amber Lightning, who said, finally, a day where I can get in live. I bought this year's empowerment package because I already knew from last year it would be bursting with news and information, and I wasn't wrong. It is as inspiring as last year's summit. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to implement all the super advice and to change my food habits. I am still on a bad track. But I need to turn, and I need to turn quick and fast. I know that I have to do it now. My biggest problem is that my brain wants the fast and quick fix, and it's so hard to change with a sugar addiction when results are not always overnight. I thank you for all your super summit. You will change a lot, and I hope you will change me finally. But I already know that it's me that's the only one who can change myself. Well, Amber, I hear you, and you know, we hear this a lot. People get inspired, they gain new information, they want to put it into practice, and then over time they slip because sometimes the force of habit is powerful. But there are other reasons. We live in a toxic food culture where it's considered normal to eat food that's saturated with pesticides and hormones and antibiotics and sugar and processed junk and chemicals that we don't know how to pronounce, and full of animal products that are coming out of factory farms, full of GMOs. In this context, eating real, whole, natural, healthy food sometimes means going upstream. And so I want you to have compassion for yourself, and I want you to also remember what we heard from Dr. Katz this morning, and you're going to hear more about it from Susan Peirce Thompson in a little while, which is that junk foods are designed to be addictive. And so breaking free doesn't happen all by itself. But here's the good news. When you create good habits, it gets easier and easier to stick with them. Think about water. When it rains, it goes down gullies and, grooves, and it ends up filling rivers. Over time, it can make a riverbed as deep as the Grand Canyon. Habits tend to stick when we stick with them. And over time, it gets easier and easier to do the right thing when you create healthy habits. So right now, your brain, your body have a particular wiring, whatever it is, around food, particular pathways that are normal. And especially when you're tired or stressed, which does tend to happen in life for all of us, you tend to go with the path of least resistance, just like water does. So the question is, can you use your willpower to create grooves, to create patterns, to create pathways? And what you'll find is that over time, it gets easier and easier and easier, more and more second nature to do the right thing and to stick with it. We had an anonymous participant who said, I switched to a strict vegan diet almost 3 months ago, and I've been trying to navigate my way to good health through all the contradictory advice about lectins, nightshades, and protein. This summit is helping enormously. However, my question is about fertility and pregnancy. I've spoken to a nutritionist at my clinic, and they think it is impossible to conceive or maintain a pregnancy on a vegan diet. Could you please ask Ocean to speak to this topic and reassure those of us who want to continue with this plant-based diet whilst trying to conceive? Well, here's the deal. First off, I want to say that broadly speaking, if your nutritionist said it is impossible to conceive or maintain a pregnancy on a vegan diet, they are wrong. We know that a whole foods plant-based diet is full of antioxidants, phytonutrients, fiber, water, minerals, and vitamins. We know that it's associated with reduced risk of cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's, and a great many other ailments. But what about pregnancy? Well, according to a recent Harvard study, eating more fruits and vegetables in place of meat was found to increase fertility. We know that animal products are higher on the food chain, so they can concentrate and carry environmental toxins, pesticides, dioxins, and hormones. We know that they are linked, generally speaking, with higher rates of insulin resistance, which can interfere with reproductive hormones and with ovulation. We know that insulin resistance is also one of the hallmarks of polycystic ovary syndrome, which is the leading cause of infertility today. We also know that men who are obese are 3 times more likely to have a low sperm count than men of the same background and age who are of healthy weight, and that a study of 50,000 couples in 2007 found that obese women had an almost 80% greater risk of being subfertile than normal weight women. And we know it is well documented that people on a whole foods plant-based diet tend to be lighter, to have lower rates of obesity, and of course also to have lower rates of insulin resistance. So there's a lot of evidence showing that a whole foods plant-based diet can be beneficial. We know that for women who are preparing for pregnancy or who are pregnant, some of the most critical nutrients to be aware of are going to be zinc, folate, and omega-3 fatty acids. Rich sources of zinc can include avocados, berries, asparagus, French beans, Brussels sprouts, pulses, which is chickpeas and peas and kidney beans and black-eyed peas and soy products. And also, you're also going to find a lot in green leafy vegetables, nuts, and seeds. And folate is found also in berries, mangoes, pineapples, avocado, green leafy vegetables, asparagus, pulses again, a lot of the same places. Now, for DHA and EPA, these are 2 critical omega-3 fatty acids. They are not found directly in any vegan foods other than algae. So if you're vegan, I think it behooves you, and especially if you are looking at pregnancy, to be getting a source of DHA and EPA probably daily. You can get them from algae. You can also get them from, which then comes into supplements. Or you may choose to eat some wild high-fat fish that's low in mercury, if obviously that's not vegan, but that may be an option for many people who are plant-based. I think that having a source of DHA and EPA is important. And in this regard, we actually had a question from Heath Byers who said, we all need DHA. What supplements do you recommend for vegans? And so let me just touch on that directly. Again, there are many sources that come from algae. One of my favorites is a product called Complement, which provides EPA and DHA from algae sources along with D3 and a methylcobalamin source of B12. You get it all in one in a simple spray, and it's an easy product to take, and it's nice to have that all-in-one source. And you can get it from foodrevolution.org/complement. And Heath, our team wants to support you, and so do the folks who make Complement, so we'll be sending you a free 2-month supply. We'll follow up with you about that. Congratulations. We heard from Morgan Trotter, who said, as a younger wife and mother of 2 littles, I've really enjoyed all the incredible and credible information that's been shared this week. Now I am focused on being a full-time mother at home. I finally have more time to be proactive and diligent in our lifestyle and health. I have listened to several of the speakers to help educate me to better serve and support my growing family. I've never felt more responsibility and privilege to feed my family truth, love, and health. Thank you for all your efforts and continuing to advocate for a healthy planet and future. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Morgan, and we want to invest in your family and in your well-being. So we are going to gift you with an empowerment package. Enjoy. I hope you're able to put it to good use as you own the MP3s and transcripts and all of the bonuses for life. Congratulations. And congratulations also to all the other people who are stepping up and getting informed and owning the empowerment package for life. We are so grateful for your support and so grateful for your attention right here and right now. Everybody listening, remember, you are part of a global community. 327,000 people right now are signed up for this summit and participating in this food revolution. Millions of people around the globe are fed up with toxic food, are sick of being sick, are hungry for a change, and together we can and we are shifting the course of history. So thank you again. It means so much to me that you're here, that you're taking your precious time and your precious attention to learn, to grow, to share, to engage, and to participate as fully as you are. We heard from Carol Longhurst, who said, my favorite thing about the summit has been all the positives. I knew much about what is wrong with food and pesticides. The reason I joined is because I wanted to learn what could be done. I'm at a point now where buying organic is not an option. I have increased my own gardening efforts. The best part of this summit is the hope, seeing what others are doing. It gives me hope that I can find ways to make a difference too. Yes, Kara, you absolutely can. You are hope. Hope is not just something that comes from sitting on the sidelines. It's something we live. It's something we create. I think it's a verb, not just a noun. And now it is almost time to move to the next segment of our broadcast, which will be an interview with Dr. Susan Peirce Thompson. But first, a quick message about Food Revolution Network's mission. At Food Revolution Network, our mission is healthy, ethical, and sustainable food for everyone who eats. We want kids to learn about healthy food in school. We want doctors to learn how nutrition impacts health in medical school. We want the routine use of antibiotics banned from factory farms. We want a world where everyone, regardless of their ethnic or economic background, has knowledge of and access to healthy food for their family. We want a world in which heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, obesity, and diabetes are rare, and in which vibrant health is the status quo. We're spreading the word and standing for change. And with every empowerment package purchased, we make a donation to Trees for the Future, enabling them to plant an organic fruit or nut tree in a low-income community. Join this movement and support this mission. Welcome to the Food Revolution Summit, where we explore how you can heal your body and your world with food. This is Ocean Robbins, and I am joined by my dad and colleague, John Robbins, in welcoming our friend and guest, Dr. Susan Peirce Thompson. Susan Peirce Thompson is an adjunct associate professor of brain and cognitive sciences at the University of Rochester, and she's an expert in the psychology of eating. She is president of the Institute for Sustainable Weight Loss and author of the New York Times bestseller, Bright Line Eating, The Science of Living Happy, Thin, and Free. Her breakthrough Bright Line Eating program utilizes cutting-edge research to explain how the brain blocks weight loss and to help participants to release excess weight forever. In the last 3 years, Susan's programs have been documented to help people in 190 countries to release more than 400,000 pounds. The Food Revolution Network has been proud to partner with Susan on several major projects, and we have seen the results of her work firsthand. They're real, they're stunning, and they're making a profound difference. So now, Susan, we're so appreciative of your groundbreaking work and so excited that we get this time with you. And now for the interview, I'm going to hand it over to my dad, John Robbins.
Well, thank you, Ocean. Thank you, Susan, for being with us today.
Oh, thank you so much. It's great to be here.
As Ocean just mentioned, participants who are enrolled in your programs in the last 3 years have lost nearly 500,000 pounds. And that doesn't include the untold number of pounds they've lost after the program was over, and that have been lost by people who read your excellent book or watched your videos or heard you speak, but who haven't formally enrolled in one of your programs. Very recently, I've been looking closely at the results of your programs, and one fact just jumps out at me. A recent study published in the American Journal of Public Health found that the odds of an obese woman reaching a normal weight within 1 year are dismal. The study found that only 1 in every 282 obese women were able to reach a normal weight in a year. 1 in every 282 women. But with your program, with the Bright Line Eating Program, the results are very different. 1 in every 5 obese women are able to reach a normal weight in a year, and many more reach their goal weight soon thereafter. This means that your program is a stunning 55 times more successful. This is an absolutely staggering improvement in success rate. And the question I want to ask to begin our conversation, Susan, is this. Why is it so important to you to help so many obese people lose weight?
Oh, John, it really is my life's work. It's my calling. And some of it just comes from my own experience. I was obese in my 20s, overweight before that, and tried everything to lose weight, including as a teenager, I did a lot of drugs. Those were my really only successful weight loss attempt was crystal meth, cocaine, and dropped out of high school, got clean, thank God, when I was 20 and stopped doing drugs. I haven't had a drink or a drug in 23 years, but my weight really escalated after I stopped having that as a compensatory mechanism. And I really identify as a food addict. I have a very addictive relationship with food. And having been a drug addict, I know what addiction feels like. I know exactly what it feels like. And so I have this sort of firsthand perspective that this is, for a lot of people, it's a really tough issue. Now, I'm not saying that everyone who's obese is a food addict. It's actually not the case. It's about half of folks who are obese are food addicts. But because I remember what it's like to not be able to comfortably tie my shoes and to wear slip-on shoes, because I remember what it's like to not want to be seen in public at all because I'd gained so much weight recently that I was horrified to leave the house, because I remember what it's like to want to just pull the shades and not answer the phone and eat rather than, face life. And I'm free now. I don't have that. I don't live like that anymore. I'm in a right-sized body. I've been in a right-sized body for 14 years, and I burn on the inside with wanting to help people solve this problem. It's just, it's deep, deep inside me. And I'm really proud of those numbers. They're amazing numbers.
It seems that in some circles now, dieting is anti-feminist. And weight loss is politically incorrect. I mean, people are saying they don't want to diet or lose weight. They want to become healthy so they can be fit. They're saying they want to eat clean so they can be strong. Fat shaming is out. Body acceptance is in. And I think there's something really important happening here. I mean, no one should ever be made to feel less precious or valuable if they aren't thin. And it's true that as a society, we tend to hold thinness up as an ideal to such an extent that many people, especially women, hate their bodies if they fail to conform to a nearly impossible ideal. But Susan, do you think it's possible that many people today still want to lose weight and maybe still want to lose it very badly, but are finding it culturally complicated now to say so?
I think what's really going on with that is that people have lost the belief that it's possible to lose weight. They've tried and tried and tried. And so if you're a self-loving, self-affirming person, or even you just kind of want to get along as well as you can in this life with the cards you've been dealt, and you've got extra weight on you and you've tried everything to lose it and it's not coming off, then I speak from experience. Like, I'll accept myself the way I am is the next move, But yeah, people are talking about eating clean. It's not cool these days to want to lose weight. To be honest, I think everybody still wants to lose weight who's got extra weight on them. Not everybody, but The interesting thing is what's most gorgeous, I think, in someone is being comfortable in their own skin. Like that's what we all want. It's just to be comfortable in our own skin. And when someone is, it shows, it radiates, they're beautiful. It's not really about what size they are. It's about how comfortable they are in their own skin. And that's what I want for everybody is like just get to that place, comfortable in your own skin. And for many of us, if there's weight that really shouldn't be there, it's going to take getting some of that weight off before we really feel that way,
There's a common perception, I think, that weight issues and weight problems are the result of a lack of willpower or a lack of motivation, and that these people who can't lose weight or aren't even trying are failures. They're failures in life. But I know that's not true. In fact, many of these people have tremendous willpower and motivation, and some of them are immensely successful in many other areas of their life. And a case in point would be Oprah Winfrey, who has had a very long and very public struggle with her weight, and who clearly has been a tremendous success in her life. In 2009, the cover of O magazine featured 2 photos of Oprah side by side. One was a picture of her thin, taken 4 years previously. The other was a picture of her now, much, much larger. And the cover of the magazine asked, "How did I let this happen again?" So, Susan, what I want to ask you is, how is it that when it comes to food, so many people, including those who are successful in many other areas of their life, are unable to consistently act in their own best interests?
That's it, John. That's the gazillion-dollar question right there. And there is an answer. Neuroscience has been revealing that answer over the last decade or two, and it has to do with the fact that not everyone's brain responds the same way to certain foods. Certain foods made out of sugar and flour particularly, but other things too, like salt and fat and meat flavor, glutamate and things like that. So certain foods have evolutionary reward value. And if they're processed in a certain way, like sugar and flour get refined and processed, which is essentially like taking poppies and turning them into heroin or coca leaves and turning them into cocaine, they affect the brain like a drug. And for some people, that creates a response that's overpowering. And over time, it rewires the brain so that not eating is tantamount to, trying to not eat as much as you want to eat is like trying to hold your breath for longer than your brain is comfortable with. Your brain is going to kick in and it's going to force you to eat more. And there's lots going on there. It has to do with dopamine. It has to do with leptin. So there's dopamine downregulation going on in the addictive centers of the brain, the ventral tegmental area and the nucleus accumbens, which basically leaves us feeling itchy and kind of desperate and not okay if we're not getting more sugar and flour into our system. And then there's leptin resistance on board. Leptin's the hormone that tells you to stop eating. And if your brain can't see that hormone, you show all the biological markers of starvation. No matter if you're morbidly obese, it doesn't matter. And you will not be able to stop eating. So this is where people have eaten a full dinner and now they're sitting on the couch eating a bag of chips, and then the bag of chips are gone. They're going for a pint of ice cream, and they're not hungry in any sense of that term, except their brains are demanding more food. And that's leptin resistance right there. And so certain brains wire up for these things and others don't. And I really talk a lot in my materials and my programs when I speak about how it's really important that we recognize that we're not all the same when it comes to food. And for someone who's got a brain like mine, like Oprah Winfrey's, food is just in this environment where there's all this, as we all know, I mean, it's the whole subject of this summit, right? This crazy food environment we live in. This food environment is a minefield for someone with a brain like mine or like hers. And, motivation, willpower's really got nothing to do with it. I mean, we don't tell people who can't hold their breath and run up 10 flights of stairs that they're not motivated enough. The brain is powerful when it demands what it needs in an evolutionary context, whether that's food or oxygen or whatever. There is no saying no to that. That's how bright line eating can have a success rate that's ridiculously times more successful than other programs. Because if you don't address that underlying biological miswiring, there is no winning against that.
When people give up eating sugar and flour, do their brains actually heal? I mean, do they experience regeneration of the dopamine neurons in the portion of the brain known as the nucleus accumbens? And does this then allow them to break somewhat free from cravings?
Yes. dopamine receptor regeneration absolutely happens. Leptin resistance goes away as insulin levels come down and inflammation comes down. The brain can see leptin. So all that is true. Unfortunately, what happens though is that the cue response patterns that got wired up in the brain of whatever, pick your poison, like the behavior of stopping by Starbucks in the morning for a muffin and a mocha, right? Those types of behaviors, if you stop doing them, the neural grooves are still left in your brain, kind of like a dry riverbed. And so, although that person can walk off into the sunset, what I call happy, thin, and free, they always have to be more vigilant than someone who never had the problem in the first place. So they're free, but they're free contingent on the maintenance of the new habits that Bright Line Eating helped them establish.
And you've developed a susceptibility scale that enables people to understand something about their brain wiring and how susceptible they may be to food addiction and food cravings. What is it about the susceptibility scale that makes it important for all of us to understand our relationship to food?
Yeah, thanks, John. And it is important for all of us, even folks who are even people who are like, I don't eat like that. Like I must be one of the people who are not afflicted with this. The reason it's important for all of us to understand where we're at on the susceptibility scale is as follows. If you do want to eat clean, get healthy, lose weight, or if you know someone who could probably benefit from that, which means like all of us are now in that bucket, we either are that way or we know someone who's that way, probably someone we care about. It's really important to understand this continuum because if you're low on the susceptibility scale, it means that hyperpalatable foods like chocolate and pizza and chips and ice cream and whatever, they don't pull you viscerally like they do for someone who's high on the susceptibility scale, which means you can moderate your consumption of them. And that means that if you want to have a piece of pumpkin pie on Thanksgiving, if you want to dabble, say, okay, well, I can't give up chocolate, so I'll do the dark chocolate thing. I hear it's really healthy, but I can eat 3 squares of it and not eat 2 bars. Then that works for you. Assuming that's going to work for someone else is where the gap comes in. So if you have a friend who's really high on the susceptibility scale, that like 3 square of chocolate experiment is not going to work for them. They'll eat the whole bar, and if there's a second bar right there, they'll eat that too. Maybe not every time, but often enough that it's going to derail their attempts, right? So the moderation thing isn't going to work for their friend. And so if we can all just understand that people are dealing with a very different landscape, depending on what kind of brain they've got, and that it's not a one-size-fits-all situation when it comes to how to handle food, I think the whole food thing would be a lot less confusing and contradictory if this notion of the susceptibility scale was really commonly understood. So we can understand that you got to know what kind of brain someone has before you go start offering them advice about how to handle their eating.
I think I'm probably fairly low on the susceptibility scale. I've always been thin my life or normal weight. But I have to say that there's something in my reptilian brain is still operating as though I'm still dependent on gnawing the bark off trees to stay alive. I've noticed that my reptilian brain holds 2 fear-based assumptions in its scaly and unrelenting grip. And the first assumption says there won't be enough for me. Not enough food, not enough love, not enough shelter, not enough safety, not enough peace, not enough anything. And it's also saying, secondarily, that something bad is about to happen. And that part of my brain is just constantly conjuring up catastrophic expectations. And I think all of us have, to some degree, a part of our brain that is terrified of and fully expects that soon will be the next famine. Susan, how do you work with the reptilian brain in Bright Line Eating?
It's a tough one. The reptilian brain gets worse after you've lost some weight. So there's recent research showing that hormones like leptin and neuropeptide YY and ghrelin and stuff, a thyroid hormone, they adjust their levels after you've lost weight to sort of try to force weight regain. So metabolism slows down, hunger ramps up. And even if you're still obese, like let's say you were 300 pounds and now you're 220 pounds and you're a woman who's 5'4", like you're still obese, the reptilian brain is going to try to get you to regain weight. And so what we do in Bright Line Eating is we really emphasize a lot of support and a lot of community and a lot of staying close to the mothership, as we call it. This amazing international online community we've got of people who do Bright Line Eating. And as you've probably experienced with your reptilian brain, this sense of, there's not enough love, there's not enough anything, and the other shoe's about to drop. Don't you experience that that's calmed by the presence and company of loving, supporting people?
Yes, yes, I have felt that. I have noticed that. That's my remedy for
Totally.
when it's out of control.
Yeah, and other strategies like meditation, people might think, well, what's that got to do with losing weight? Well, everything, actually. Again, another way to calm the reptilian brain, to replenish willpower, to develop a pause between the stimulus and the response. So you have a little bit more inner center before rushing off to the fridge over an emotion or whatever. So we do things quite differently in Bright Line Eating. It's not all just about eat this, don't eat that. So support, meditation, lots of habitual structures also that you sort of get into a groove with, and they make things automatic. The reptilian brain also can be sort of circumvented through habits. Even if you have a disquieted feeling that you're not being loved enough or the other shoe's going to drop, you still wake up in the morning and brush your teeth and whatever your other automatic habits are. In Bright Line Eating, we try to put as much of your food life into that bucket of just automatically executed, not really having to think about it as possible. That's one of our best go-to strategies to help people be successful.
Sometimes when I feel a craving for sugar and I'm in that reptilian brain grip, I will actually use food to comfort me, but not sugar. I will eat some berries. I will have a banana and walnuts or something like that, some sweeter fruit. And that does work for me. And maybe that's because it's easier for me because I'm lower on the susceptibility scale, but that does seem to work for me and the cravings go away.
Right. That's the thing, John, with a brain like yours. Some banana and walnuts makes the cravings go away. For me, I'd be going back for another banana and more walnuts, another banana and more walnuts, and then I'd be dipping that banana in peanut butter and sprinkling it would just keep going. And then I would need to squeeze some honey on there, and it would just kind of escalate. For me, having a banana and some walnuts, if I'm agitated or whatever, it starts a chain reaction that is a runaway train that's hard to stop. For you, it's like itching something, right? I mean, I guess the question is, if I'm going to itch that, is it going to help? Or is it going to make it itchier? And for my brain, it always makes it itchier.
Ouch. Oh, wow. We're talking about different brains and different brain neurochemistry. I think there are problems that uniquely apply to women regarding body image and weight in our society. When I was a little boy, I had a friend, a chubby little girl, whose parents offered to pay her for every pound she lost. She was only 7 years old. And she was weighed every morning in front of her whole family. And you can probably guess where her attempts to control her body size led, binging and dieting, and then obsessing about binging and dieting, until eventually her whole life seemed to revolve around a struggle with food. Susan, do you understand what she felt like? Is this something Bright Line Eating can address?
Well, I didn't experience that growing up, so I always hesitate to say, if I haven't actually gone through something, to say I know what that feels like. Yeah, I mean, you heard my gasps. My heart so goes out to, and it's not that out of the realm of how. I mean, we have so many people in our program who came up in the age where little girls who were overweight got put on amphetamines when they were 8, 9, 10 years old to take that chubbiness away. And Bright Line Eating totally helps with all that. Bright Line Eating is for all kinds of people. You don't have to have this kind of a food problem where you feel like food's taken over your life to be a member of Bright Line Eating. We got plenty of people who just want to lose those 20 pounds already, and it's not that big of a deal, but they'd be happier with them off, so we help them get them off. But absolutely, she would find such a home in Bright Line Eating and such love and compassion, and the heart of our community would go so far to healing the horror and the shame and the struggles and the strivings of that desperate little girl. We would love her up. Oh my goodness. Yes, indeed.
And you'd love her up, and your love would not be conditional on what the scale said.
No, Not at all. As a matter of fact, we talk a lot about our non-scale victories. And, it's funny. I know it sounds like we're all about the weight in Bright Line Eating, but actually weight's just the lure to get people in the door. As we say, we come for the vanity, but we stay for the sanity. That's a 12-step food program slogan, but I really like it. So we talk about that in Bright Line Eating. It's really more about the inner journey. But for a lot of us, if the weight's not handled, you can't kind of see past that first issue. So you got to get that handled, and then the rest comes after.
When you mentioned coming for the vanity, but staying for the sanity, I'm remembering something that Martha Beck once said. She said that losing weight and keeping it off is the mother of all psychological challenges. She said it's more difficult than kicking heroin. And she also said it's more delicate than surgery. She said that losing weight and keeping it off requires that you live an unusually authentic and fulfilling life. Susan, what do you make of that?
Well, my first thought is she knows what she's talking about. No one could be that articulate about this issue unless she'd faced it herself, would be my guess. I think she's right on all counts. And it is the mother of all challenges. And one of the reasons is that to develop a weight problem of this ilk, you have to watch yourself betray yourself with food over and over again in your life. And you therefore come to believe certain things about yourself. That you don't love yourself, that you don't trust yourself, that you don't believe that you're worthy. And you come to believe all that just from watching yourself break your own promises to yourself, just like you would not to a best friend, but to someone you can't stand. I mean, you treat yourself worse than even anybody else. You would never treat anybody as badly as you're treating yourself with food. So you come to believe certain things about yourself, and changing your self-concept at that kind of fundamental level is hard and intense. We're so clear on what we're going to eat every day, and then we watch ourselves stick to it, because Bright Line Eating does start to rewire the brain so it's not fighting us. And in this community environment with daily disciplines and structures that are so supportive, all of a sudden we find ourselves sticking to our commitments to ourselves instead of breaking them. One day at a time, one brick at a time, we rebuild our self-concept. But then here's the kicker, John. What she's talking about, you have to live, what did she say? You have to live a life that's fulfilled.
Authentic and fulfilling.
Authentic and fulfilling. Here's why. Because for many of us, we've spent the last several decades focused on what we're eating or not eating, whether we're on our plan or off our plan, how many pounds, how many miles, how many calories, so that this noise, this din, is the predominant focus of our spare moments after the dishes are done and the whatever. Like we're thinking, this is what's on our mind. To finally break free of that, you have to build a new identity and find new interests. And there's a vacuum. Can you feel the vacuum that would exist if that problem were swept away? And so in Bright Line Eating, after a bunch of months, however long it takes someone to get down to goal weight, there's this identity crisis of like, who am I now without this problem? We say that the real work starts when you get to goal weight. That's when the rubber meets the road, because you have to redefine yourself, find new interests in life, and allow yourself finally to be successful when you've built up the self-concept of someone who won't allow themselves to be successful, even though it wasn't true. It was all neurological hijacking that was resulting in your behavior before, but that's not what you believed. You believed you were sabotaging yourself. So now you have to become someone who's willing to not sabotage themselves and to have a whole new life. It's not trivial.
It's definitely not trivial. It's actually profound, and it requires, at some level, building a new identity, changing your self-concept at a very profound level. Susan, a lot of us have used food to suppress feelings, particularly difficult feelings, and to create distance from painful experiences that we didn't know a better way to cope with. And some of us are afraid to change because we know how much we've stuffed life down, how many feelings we've repressed, and we fear that if we were to be leaner and healthier, and if we were to stop using food to numb ourselves, we would have to face the feelings we've avoided. And even with the greater aliveness and the greater vitality that comes with healthier eating, we're afraid that we wouldn't have the capacity to face those emotional challenges. Susan, if we have been using food to suppress feelings, and I think a lot of us have, what's going to happen if we stop doing that?
Yeah, that's a great question, John. What's going to happen is we're going to have to cope in other ways. So this is one of the big reasons why I really recommend the Bright Line Eating Bootcamp as opposed to just reading a book or some other approach. Because you can learn what to eat in the book. That's the least of it. But going through the first few months not using food as a crutch, as a coping mechanism to numb feelings, as basically our first reaction to life was to eat. And that's true of lots of people who are not high on the susceptibility scale, by the way. Like you said, you don't feel great, you go have some berries. There's nothing wrong with that if it's not damaging your health, hurting your psyche, like you're not hating yourself over it. There's nothing wrong with that. But for many of us, there is something wrong with it because we're not healthy and we're trying to change our lives. So doing it in community is really important, and finding those other ways to cope. So this is why we're teaching people at the same time to meditate. We have these thriving Facebook groups in our boot camps where people are in these communities that are just second to none. So they have a place to post the feelings. Hey, this came down today. I didn't eat over it, and they get love and support and ideas and commiseration. And I often invite people to really think deeply about what's truly comforting to them. Okay, other than a bowl of ice cream, what is comforting? What does true comfort look like? Is it a bath? Is it a good book? Is it a hot cup of herbal tea? Is it a snuggle with your honey on the couch? Like, what is real comfort? And so we basically are left with the wonderful, beautiful, gorgeous challenge of facing life with less armor and addressing challenges in a more productive way. So what happens is we grow a whole heck of a lot when we're not using food as a crutch.
Well, when we try to face life with less armor and to grow in personal power and self-confidence and clarity and joy, we often confront an inner resistance. I mean, many of us have inner saboteurs. We have voices in our heads that seem to want to undermine our best efforts, that tell us that we're not good enough, we're unworthy, we don't deserve to enjoy life and celebrate ourselves, that our efforts will fail. And sometimes our inner saboteurs are very subtle and hard to recognize for what they are. Other times they're overt and obvious, but sometimes they're hard to see. Susan, how can we recognize our inner saboteurs for what they are, and how can we transform the energy they contain so that we aren't any longer controlled or defined by them?
That's a good question. I think sometimes it's hard to identify the saboteur. I'm not always clear what mine is, but you get better at it. I think in the early days of Bright Line Eating, it's any voice in your head that's leading you to eat off your food plan. That's for starters. Or to kind of say, why am I doing this anyway? Or I think in the early days of doing Bright Line Eating, a little bit of just do the plan as outlined entirely is really helpful, because then you can identify your saboteur as any voice that's trying to get you to do anything other than that, essentially. I think later in the program, when you've been doing it for a long time and you really got it down and your habits are automatic and you're in a right-sized body, you can really start to say, okay, well, which of these habits or behaviors really serve me the most? Are there any I want to give up? I tend to think that connection and structure, for someone who's got a brain like mine, or for someone who wants to live this way of life, connection and structure are probably helpful. And a voice that's leading you away from connection and away from structure is probably your saboteur.
Do you think it's important for people wanting to lose weight to limit the amount of time they spend with people who encourage them one way or another to overeat or to eat poorly? And is it also important for them to spend more time with people who support their healthy food choices?
Could be, yeah. I mean, I remember in the early days, there were certain functions, for example, that I just couldn't go to, where desserts were pushed aggressively, like really aggressively. And I would say, no, thank you. And they'd say, oh, come on, have some. And I'd say, no, really, I'm good. And they'd say, oh, please, you must. And shoving the plate of brownies underneath my nose so I was smelling them. It was really upsetting. And I stopped going to those events because I just wasn't in a place where I could handle being around that kind of pressure. Personal stuff is really hard because often it's friends, it's family. Sometimes it's eating buddies. There's people in our lives that their lives get really disrupted when we stop indulging with food all the time because we were doing it with them. And we talk a lot in Bright Line Eating about how to navigate those relationships. I've got a video that's a bonus in the boot camp that's a video for the friends and family of someone who's doing Bright Line Eating that helps to explain what support looks like, helps to explain the things that seem extreme or like, why would someone need to do that? It just helps to explain how this person's brain might respond differently than yours. I think some relationships, honestly, John, are just going to die a natural death. But you experience this anyway. As you grow in any way, if there's people in your life who aren't growing, the odds that relationship is kind of going to fall by the wayside increase, right? Because water seeks its own level.
I've sometimes thought that the quality of our lives is partly determined by the quality of the questions that we ask and that we live with, maybe even more so than the answers that we think we have. And a lot of people who are overweight seem to be asking themselves, why are you so damn fat? I don't think that's a helpful question. Susan, what would be better questions that a person might ask themselves and live with?
Maybe a question would be, where are the people who've solved this problem? And how can I do what they're doing?
Where are the people who have solved this problem that I'm suffering from, and how can I do what they do?
Yeah, not the people who are thin naturally, not the John Robinses of the world. God bless you, but someone who's in that pickle can't do what you do. But where are the people who used to be like me and who've figured it out? Where are they?
The Susan Peirce Thompsons of the world. There aren't too many. There aren't very many. You know, the statistics on people who've been very obese and lost what they needed to lose to become a normal weight, a healthy weight, a right-sized body, as you put it, and maintain that normal weight, the statistics are bleak. Here you are, though. It's been 14 years, and you have a credibility. You have an authority that is really unmistakable because you are that person.
Yeah, I think I'm in the top 1/100th of 1% of successful weight loss maintainers. Like obese and, in a right-sized body for 14 years, like it just doesn't happen. You're right. There aren't that many people like that in the world at all. Yeah, feel very grateful. Very grateful.
And the percentages of people who've been able to do that, who've been able to lose the weight they wanted to lose and maintain that over extended periods of time, the data has been very, very dismal. But in your program, we're seeing different results and staggeringly better results. And this is particularly impressive to me when I reflect on something you just said, which is that for you, quitting crack cocaine was strikingly easier than losing weight. I mean, we're dealing with a really major existential life issue for a lot of people.
Yeah. There's no words to language how serious it is. And it's an incredibly underappreciated issue, how serious it is, what we're facing. And I think you know this, John, by 2030, aren't 50% of us supposed to be obese in the United States?
Yes.
We're at a third right now.
Sadly.
Closing in on 40%.
The
50%.
numbers are going up all the time, and among children as well. And Susan, when I think of all the people you've helped to lose weight, the people who've lost weight on your program, I think of the weight and how much happier they are. But I also think honestly, of all the cases of diabetes that have been averted.
Yeah.
And I think of all the people who are now more present in their lives and feel more confident in their bodies and who can now show up more fully for the people they love. And it seems to me that this is far more than a vanity issue. It is a sanity issue, as you said, and it's also an issue of the quality of the life that a person has the grace and the blessing to live.
Yes. And I want to take it even a step further, John. It's their ability to give their gifts back to the world. When you've got all this weight to lose and you're heavy with it, you're encumbered with it, it's on your mind, you're trying to solve that problem. What are the other problems you're not trying to solve? Just like you said, presence in your life. We all have gifts to give. We all have a calling, a purpose, people to serve. I firmly believe, I probably said this on the summit last year, so sorry if I'm repeating myself, but I still firmly believe that the person who's going to figure out how to desalinate water at an economical rate and the person who's going to solve cold fusion is right now starting their 4th diet this year.
Wow. So the amazing genius, the brilliance, the wisdom that is held back by the heaviness is released and is then available to life.
And that's my real mission, is unleashing all the human potential that's stuck on the hamster wheel of the calories and the pounds and the, you know, what I've eaten or not eaten, whether I'm on my plan or off my plan, all that. Sweep it away and let those people go live the lives they were meant to live in a right-sized body, happy, thin, and free, not dealing with this issue anymore. Like giving no more time over to the food weight beast. None. Done.
You know, Susan, I so appreciate your wisdom, your clarity, your compassion, and the effectiveness of what you're doing. You're helping people to be happy, thin, and free, and you're also helping people to make their new food identity and healthy living feel like second nature instead of like an unsteady wagon that they might fall off at any moment. You're making it into an automatic thing, not something that takes willpower, not something that even takes a lot of noticing, because it just becomes ingrained.
Yes. Well said, John. Wow. Spoken like someone who's lived it. That's amazing. That's exactly right.
I haven't lived it in the weight area, but I've lived it in other areas, so I understand what you're saying. You know, I love your work, and it's a pleasure to think about it a lot, even though I do so, as you pointed out, as somebody who is low on the food susceptibility scale. But I have other addictions. I think everyone does, and other things I go to avoid my feelings and avoid the pain and the struggle and the stress. And learning healthier ways to do that has been my version, I suppose, of learning healthier ways to identify with your food journey. And so I think the principles are the same regardless.
Yeah.
But food is maybe the
Yeah.
hardest.
Food is the hardest. Food is the hardest. And I don't know whether everyone experiences addiction. I think everyone experiences acting against their own best interest and using things that shouldn't be used medicinally. Addiction is this beast where it gets taken to a next level where you can't stop, you can't stop, you can't stop, you can't stop, you can't stop. And it's horrifying. Just when you said that, it reminded me of this long debate I've had with a friend that whether everyone's addicted to something or only some people are really addicted to things. I guess it depends on how you define it, but there is this sense in which addiction is just sort of another step further on a continuum of something everyone experiences, which is this very human tendency to use something for anesthetization or excitement against our own best interests and kind of wish we weren't, or realizing it's not a good thing. I think everybody experiences that. And so there's something very human about the addict's plight.
Yeah, I like to think of that continuum. I don't like to think of addicts outside of the human circle because that's just isolating and unreal. It seems to me that people who have abusive pasts are drawn to addictive activities, perhaps more so than others, and that can mean being drawn to comfort foods or being drawn to addictive relationships with foods more so than others. There's a saying that what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. And I see the wisdom of that saying playing out fully in your life and in your work. I mean, you've overcome a great deal, and it has indeed made you stronger. And one of the things that I really appreciate about you, Susan, is that you use the power you've gained to help others in so many meaningful ways. I love that about you, and I feel privileged to know you, to be your friend and colleague, and to have your voice and wisdom as part of this summit. On behalf of Ocean and myself and everyone involved in the food revolution, I want to thank you for your wonderful work, your ongoing work, for all the people you're helping, and of course, for being with us today.
Oh, thanks, John. It's been such a privilege.
We've been talking with Dr. Susan Peirce Thompson, president of the Institute for Sustainable Weight Loss and author of Bright Line Eating, The Science of Living Happy, Thin, and Free. If you want to connect with Susan's work or to take her quiz to find out how susceptible you are to food addiction, you can visit foodrevolution.org/foodquiz. Again, that's foodrevolution.org/foodquiz. Susan, food addiction is one of the most painful areas in so many people's lives. And to that pain, you are bringing profound, grounded hope. We want to thank you so much for your penetrating insights, for your critically important work, and for your partnership in the food revolution.
Thank you so much, Ocean.
Wow, thank you so much to Dr. Susan Peirce Thompson and to my dad and colleague, John Robbins, for that enriching, powerful, illuminating conversation. To express your opinions on what you've been hearing and to find out what other people are saying, post and engage in the comments section on the broadcast page. Make sure to refresh those comments so you can see the most recent ones. Maggie Stern said, money is an exchange and compensation medium we all use. I'm listening to this Food Revolution Summit for free, but I know it's taken a tremendous amount of money to make it happen. How is money handled in the summit? Are folks volunteering time? Is it funded by advertising? It seems that selling recordings of the program wouldn't cover the expenses. No one just talks frankly about the finances. Well, Maggie, thank you for asking. All of our speakers are volunteering their time. We don't have advertisers. The funding for this summit and much of the funding for Food Revolution Network's mission comes from the sales of the empowerment package. So if you do choose to get one, you can know you're investing in your own health and in our mission at the same time. We wouldn't be able to do any of this without all the people stepping forward to get those packages. At the same time, we are offering this completely for free. So if you're not in a position to buy one, please don't feel obligated. We are in this mission because we want to share this. That's what it's all about for us. And we love that we can offer the summit for free. And we also love being able to offer next step resources for people who want to go further and take it deeper and own it for life and get all the bonuses. And that's what the empowerment package enables. We heard from Peggy Jensen, who said, thank you for all the wonderful speakers. I have been doing bright line eating and have to say it has changed my life. Losing all my weight as an older person, which I thought would never happen. But more than the weight, it has freed me up and helped me understand how important it is to take care of myself and that I am worth it. It has helped me want to know more and to be even more vigilant at taking my nutrition to an even higher level, thus wanting to join this food revolution and be an active supporter. Thanks again. Well, Peggy, what you're raising here is really interesting because we've been working with Susan Peirce Thompson and Brightline Eating deeply in the last few years, and we find an incredible cross-pollination happening. When people join Brightline Eating, they get food freedom. And then they can apply that food freedom to choose the foods that will love them back and to step into more nourishing foods because they become the authors of their food lives. Thus, they become food revolutionaries in many, many cases. Similarly, when people get passionate about eating healthy food, sometimes they need support for a certain segment of the population in actually putting that into action and breaking free from addiction. And we find that Susan Peirce Thompson's work is the most effective that I have seen in helping people to really step into food freedom. If you're interested, you can go to foodrevolution.org/food quiz. Again, that's foodrevolution.org/food quiz, or just click on the link next to Susan Peirce Thompson's interview, and you can find, at least that'll be up during the replays, you can find a link that lets you take the quiz and find out how high you are on the susceptibility scale and learn more about Susan Peirce Thompson's work. There's also a free 14-day challenge that comes with every empowerment package that really gets you going on the Brightline eating path. We heard from Jackie Berlinberg, who said, I changed to a whole food plant-based diet 3 months ago. My husband has had weight fall off, but I have not. I've lost maybe 2 pounds. In general, what could be going on here? I'm not cheating. I feel great, but I want the weight to go away too. Well, Jackie, of course, without knowing everything about your life, I can't totally answer that conclusively, but I can say that your story is not uncommon. A lot of people go on a whole foods plant-based diet and lose weight, but not everyone. And so if you're eating whole foods plant-based, then I just would invite you to really look at sugar and flour. Those are two of the things that Susan talks about quite a bit in her work. We find that both sugar and flour can be linked to food addiction and weight gain. So you may want to try participating in one of her programs and even just drawing a bright line around sugar and flour. Try it for a month. See what happens. It could be profound. James Abrams said, I appreciate Susan Peirce Thompson's assertion that the susceptibility scale is radically individual. I'm the middle-born of triplets with an identical brother and fraternal sister. At around 7 years of age, I became very overweight, whereas my triplet brother and sister maintained a normal weight. I always assumed there was something wrong with me, a perception which wasn't helped by the ridicule I experienced as a child for being overweight. I went through life struggling with my weight, whereas my triplet siblings offered up plenty of judgment about my excess weight. Perhaps simply we differed in our susceptibility to the allure of food. Oh, James, thank you for sharing, and I am so sorry that you've experienced so much ridicule and judgment for things that were totally outside of your control. And we send our love and our prayers and our compassion in all of that. And I hope that you've learned some new things today that might be empowering for you in this journey about how the brain works and about how you can apply these principles to have food freedom. Yes, you probably are more susceptible than they are to food addiction, and yes, you can do something about it. We heard from Deborah Moore Bayer, who said, Dr. Thompson's willingness and desire to share this with the world has turned my life totally around. Because of Bright Line Eating, I have released 80 pounds in 6 months. I'm not done yet, but I will succeed because of her work and her love for humanity. I just can't thank her enough for the change in my life. BLE finally gave me hope, has changed my life. I've gotten rid of acid reflux, and I'm working on other challenges as well. I am out of the morbidly obese category now. Because of BLE, I no longer feel like a failure. I feel like I have reached my goal and actually have at least 70 more to release. I am excited to see how much better I feel when I reach my right-sized body. I love Dr. Thompson, and thank God every day I found out about you. Sincerely, a future bright lifer. Well, thank you, Deborah, for sharing your story and your enthusiasm. And I'll tell you, I have heard hundreds of stories like yours. It is so common, and it's so inspiring. Susan Peirce Thompson's work really works, and I'm so glad that you are experiencing these benefits and applying them and following through on them. And I love the bright lifer concept because, of course, it isn't. We see so many yo-yo diets where people make a change and they get results, and then a little while later they're right back where they started. Plus, they have more cynicism now, and this is so terribly common. But I think it's all about creating sustainable habit change, something you can really stick with. And one of the things I found most inspiring in the early studies on Susan Peirce Thompson's work is actually that we see that people who begin it actually stay with it and actually get results that increase over time rather than eroding in many cases. We heard from Steve Malcolm, who said, thank you for this wonderful information. I will be graduating from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition next month and will be a certified health coach. I'm doing my best to take some notes, but finding it hard to fit it all in my current schedule, hoping to share this info with as many people as possible. Well, Steve, we want to make it easier for you to share this with as many people as possible, and you don't have to take notes anymore because we're going to gift you with an empowerment package. Congratulations. So you now will own the entire summit for life. You'll own the transcripts, the MP3 recordings. You can listen, you can read, you can absorb it all. The transcripts, by the way, also come with source links to a lot of studies that are cited from medical literature. So if you want to learn more about specific studies mentioned by some of our speakers, you'll be able to find them right there. Makes it a little easier for people like you who are trying to educate others when you have solid facts to really back you up. So congratulations. I hope you enjoy it, and I know you will put it to good use. And congratulations also to all of our newest recent empowerment package owners, including Jennifer from Maryland, Carolyn from Tennessee, Kathy from Minnesota, Mary from Illinois, Michael from Louisiana, Marilee from Oklahoma, Lygia from the United Kingdom, Sarah from Utah, Joanne from Alberta, Canada, and Kathleen from Connecticut. Welcome aboard. Thank you so much for investing in your health and in our mission and getting the empowerment package. And now it is time for our revolutionary recipe of the day with chef extraordinaire Karen Hartglass. Karen is the founder of Responsible Eating and Living, or REAL, and co-host of our Plant-Powered and Thriving online course, which will be starting in a month. If you're interested in applying and implementing all that you're learning, it's an incredible resource, and you can get it during the summit for a summit special price. There's a link to it on the broadcast and replays page. On each day of this summit, Karen is introducing a recipe of the day. So I'm going to hand it now to Karen.
Hi, everyone. I agree with Dr. David Katz. After giving up sugar, salt, and artificial ingredients, you come to prefer the simpler taste of wholesome foods, herbs, and spices rather than food chemicals. Like today's summit recipe, garbanzo bean corn chowder. It's simple to make and made with simple ingredients: garbanzo beans, onions, carrots, sweet potato, and corn. And it's seasoned with lovely herbs and spices. All of the recipes I have brought you this week have been created and prepared by myself and my partner, Gary DeMattei. We've had a lot of fun preparing them and have enjoyed eating these dishes even more. I have to give Gary the credit for all the great flavor in this garbanzo bean corn chowder. He came up with the idea of blending the corn with water first before adding it to the rest of the chowder. This makes a creamy, light, sweet base. This soup is cozy and comforting. Caraway and fennel seeds give the soup its depth. We use dried herbe de Provence, which is a combination of basil, savory, marjoram, rosemary, thyme, and oregano. If you don't have this blend on hand, that's okay. You can use the herbs you do have instead. Red pepper flakes give the soup a little kick. There's ground turmeric for color and the benefit of its many health-promoting properties. Black pepper is in this recipe too, and it helps make the turmeric more absorbable. When we make garbanzo bean chowder, it's the main event. We fill up big bowls, and when we are done, we go back for seconds. Try this recipe, and you'll see why.
Well, thank you so much, Karen, for that recipe and for your inspiring presence throughout this summit. Alana Gavin asked, has the Food Revolution compiled all the daily recipes from the various summits into book form for purchase? Well, Alana, first off, all of the recipes from this summit are being compiled throughout the summit. So on the replays page each day, you'll find a link to all of the recipes from this summit. We have the Food Revolution Family Cookbook. It's not exactly recipes from the summits, but it's recipes from a lot of our speakers, our family, and our community, as well as from Karen. And it's a wonderful, wonderful, delicious resource that is available specifically and only for Empowerment Package owners. It's an add-on you can get with the Empowerment Package if you wish to. And in Plant Powered and Thriving, you're going to get some wonderful recipes as well if you join in that. We make healthy eating and delicious recipes a real feature of that course, so everyone can apply all that they're learning. We heard from Debbie Toomey, who asked, how much protein and fiber should a man and a woman have? Well, Debbie, new research is finding that protein needs for seniors is a bit higher because they don't tend to absorb protein as efficiently. Based on new findings in 2015, the Mayo Clinic recommended that seniors over age 65 should ideally get between 0.44 and 0.52 grams of protein daily per pound of body weight. This would mean that a senior who weighs 130 pounds should be getting between 57 and 67 grams of protein per day. For younger folks, it's not as much of a concern. The numbers drop notably as far as recommendations. But let's keep in mind that protein deficiency at all ages is stunningly rare. Most American adults eat about 100 grams of protein a day, or actually roughly twice the recommended amount for everyone except seniors. Most Europeans are getting far more than they need as well. And in fact, many people may be suffering from intake of too much protein. We have new studies coming out showing us that that many people who are getting large, high-protein diets are suffering from higher rates of cancer. In fact, in one large study conducted out of the University of Southern California by Walter Longo, they tracked 6,381 adults over the age of 50 for nearly 20 years. And the study found that between the ages of 50 and 65, participants who ate a high-protein diet, which was defined as 20% or more of calories coming from protein, were 4 times more likely to die of cancer than those who consumed a low-protein diet with under 10% of calories coming from protein. They said this increase in cancer risk was actually on par with smoking 20 cigarettes per day. So I wonder, is it possible we've had some of this backwards? Is it possible that a lot of us are actually getting too much protein? Dr. Longo summarized the study's findings, and he said that the study had provided convincing evidence that a high-protein diet, particularly if the proteins are derived from animals, is nearly as bad for your health as smoking. Fascinating. and certainly not what most of us have been led to believe. We heard from Lynn Ford, who said, "This is the first summit, my first summit, and I am realizing food revolution is the missing link in my journey to healthy living. I thank God for finding this summit. Listening to Susan Peirce Thompson has opened a floodgate of suppressed emotions. I almost had to stop listening because there was such a shakeup happening inside me. I know I need to hear all the summit over and over and over again, and especially Susan. Taking lots of notes because my mind has a problem remembering for a long time. I am believing my memory will improve in my journey. I have so much to live for and offer to the world. I know that it gives me the fuel to keep searching and finding the truth about nutrition and longevity. Much love to everyone on this journey." Well, Lynn, thank you for listening. Thank you for participating. Thank you for sharing. We all have gifts. We all have dreams. We all have purpose for being alive. We don't just eat to live. Or rather, we don't just live to eat, we eat to live. Like the food we eat fuels us. It fuels what we're here for. It fuels our purpose, our love, and our families. And so when you break free from food addiction, and when you step into loving foods that truly nourish your body, your mind, and your well-being, you have more vitality, you have more energy, you have more ability to truly, truly thrive. That's what you were here for. That's what we want to empower in you. That's what we want to support in you. So bless you every step of your healing journey, and thank you for being a part of this summit. And now we are moving towards the completion of day 7. To express your opinions on what you've been hearing and find out what other people are saying, post and engage in the comment section at the bottom of our broadcast page. And make sure to refresh those comments so you can see the latest ones. You can also join the conversation on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Food Revolution Network. Come back and join us tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. That's 8 a.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. GMT for Transformation Time. Feed a Radiant Life. We're going to have a fabulous, incredible, inspiring day. I am so excited for tomorrow's broadcast. So make sure you join us. And in the meanwhile, you can post your comments and share in the conversation. You can catch and share the replays at foodrevolutionsummit.org/replays. You can check out the empowerment package, and I hope you'll enjoy some delicious, fabulous, healthy food. We'll see you tomorrow with Dr. Dean Ornish, Dr. Mark Hyman, and Michael Bernard Beckwith. This is Ocean Robbins signing off from Day 7 in the Food Revolution Summit. No matter where you come from or what you've been through, the simple truth is you are meant to thrive. You deserve boundless energy, a clear mind, and a lean and healthy body. You deserve to feel confident and clear about what you eat and why. The Food Revolution Summit is packed with insights, and trying to catch and absorb all of them can be hard. That's why we created the Empowerment Package. With your Empowerment Package, you can own the entire summit, plus all the transcripts and loads of bonus materials for life. Absorb this life-changing material at a pace that's comfortable and easy for you. Join this movement. Support this mission. Buy your Empowerment Package today.